Hello and welcome to another random request reaction stream where we watch videos we don't usually get to watch on, my Sunday stream. And I guess this is also separate to the Japan stream. My controller isn't off. Yeah, we'll watch videos about anything, meme, science, technology, animals, nature, video essays, history, like whatever subject you guys want, you can share videos about it. It's a bit of a different stream where I'll watch what I feel like watching, so that's why you can share multiple videos, and I won't guarantee I'll watch your videos, but if you share multiple, there has to be something I'm interested in, right? And yeah, as always, pretty straightforward, right? Videos up to 30-minute max. Copy the title, paste it in the chat, or give me the link on Discord, that kind of stuff, right? But yeah, as always, if you're watching the VOD, there will be timestamps in the video description comments with the links to the original videos. And I think that's it. Don't know if there's too much more to say. I mean, the link to my Discord as well. A good place to share videos. As you can see, I have a tab called the Random Reaction Stream where you can share as many videos you want about any topic. And again, come a stream like this, I'll pick it if I'm interested. Then I obviously have like a stream element. This always happens because of VPN. And I have a Patreon where you can also support me. That's another option, basically. And I just noticed that I lost another Patreon. I'm sad. Anyway, here's some of the stuff that people shared already to give you some idea. This one I opened myself because we've watched most of the Nick Friday video before, and it's been a while, so I wanted to watch the newest one. Then we have videos about music. Well, you can't request music on the stream, but you can request videos about music or like music making or something, you know what I mean? We have a video about China's fixed smile obsession, and then nurse, and then Hololive member subscriber count. Okay, that's the kind of stuff we get so far. Should be interesting, as always. And again, then don't take it wrong if I don't watch, a video you shared. That's why you can share many about different topic. What I like about this stream is that I get to choose what I want to watch, and I don't know, if I don't feel like watching a topic or something, I can just skip it. It's kind of nice, I am in control. By the way, right now there's enough light, but it's very likely that the sun is gonna pass, and my usual light that I have, like my feet, is tweaking out. As you can see, it's like flashing. It's always been like very finicky, but usually I would just need to like turn it a bit and it would work. But it's not working anymore right now. I don't know what happened. My instinct is to eat it, but it doesn't work. It's even like a nice bulb that I bought, with like light that wasn't too strong, right? But this thing is, a very cheap like light, I guess. And while the light bulb is great, the thing itself is kind of fucked. Let me try to fix it. Oh, I almost got it. Oh, now it's just blinding me. Man, everything I have always just breaks down in the stupidest of way. Like, all I do is just turn it on every day. I don't really like mess with it otherwise. And yet it's never worked right. Okay, I'll give up. So yeah, all that said, that hopefully the sun stays, because otherwise it's not gonna be great. Anyway, let's get into the first video, the Nick Friday video. Again, it's been a while since we watched Nick Friday, so yeah, the latest Nick Friday video, Aviloop, YouTube Darkest Mystery. I wonder how many Darkest Mystery video is done. Every time it is the darkest. Oh yeah, the last video was 5 months ago, it's been a minute. That's what I thought, yeah. I think we reacted to that one on my old channel before it got deleted. So it's been a minute, yeah. Never heard of Aviloop, I have no context. As always with those videos, I literally have no context. So let's watch it. Spooky already.
August 5th, 2011. A channel appears on YouTube serving as a promotional page for an up-and-coming company called Aviloop, a brand that boasted unbeatable deals in the world of aviation. That same day,
Okay.
4 videos were uploaded, each showcasing young women dressed as flight attendants, detailing some of the many services that Aviloop provided. These would be the only videos ever uploaded to the channel, as from that moment on, the page was abandoned, giving Aviloop a lifespan of just 1 day. The 1 day is all it would take to set in motion a mystery that remains unsolved to this very day, a mystery surrounding the company at the core of this channel and the services that it allegedly provided, with
This really sounds like so benign. I have no idea how this goes dark.
no one being able to answer the seemingly simple question, what was Aviloop? And the more you search for answers, the more deranged this trail becomes. This is the story of Aviloop, YouTube's darkest mystery.
I'm scared.
And there's no catch.
So what are you waiting for, Captain?
This video. Opinions and theories. I do not claim this as fact. Do your own research. Okay. Allegedly.
Welcome to Aviloop, your collective buying website for anything aviation.
The formula for Aviloop's content was simple. A young woman stands in front of a static white background dressed in a flight attendant's outfit. They refer to themselves as deal attendants, and their job seems to be sharing information about this new brand, Aviloop.
We offer deals on flight lessons, pilot accessories, fuel,
FBO services, charter flights, and even small aircraft.
You don't see that very often.
The brand marketed a number of unique aviation-related services, making them appear as a one-stop shop for anyone in the industry or just anyone interested in flying. Aviloop claimed to do it all, and at unbeatable prices too,
Our deals are usually 50 to 90% off.
promoting deals of 50 to 90% off.
That already sounds way too sus. I mean, especially about something with like aircraft, right? There's so many rules, regulation, so much safety measure. You know, it's the kind of thing that like probably doesn't do much deal like this because it's all about, you know, it's all ultra expensive and for good reason, I guess, maybe. So this already sounds insanely off, yeah. I mean, even fucking McDonald's is not gonna do 90% off.
It hardly seems like anything mysterious, just your standard subpar ad from the early 2010s. But the more you watch, the less clear it becomes what exactly Aviloop did. They left their business incredibly vague. There were no prices, no locations, and rather they just listed a bunch of flying buzzwords, offered at deals that seemed impossible. For example, they list fuel supply among their offerings, but how are they actually getting the fuel and providing it at 50 to 90% off? And where in the country or even the world are they offering it? It just doesn't seem realistic. What they're saying sounds fine on the surface, but the more you think about it, the less sense it really makes. It just seems too good to be true, not to mention how bizarre it is that this unknown company could come in and offer literally anything you could want that's flying related, with such exorbitant deals. Admittedly though, this is easy enough to ignore and play off as an ineffective or even deceitful advertisement. But there was something else that was much harder to ignore about
I mean, I'm sure that like redirecting you to a website or something.
these commercials. With that being the deal attendants themselves. Despite Aviloop claiming to be a professional aviation business,
I guess the outfit look kind of cheap, like cosplay, right? I was gonna make the joke at first that they look like, you know, the kind of cheap outfit you see in like, you know, porn videos, basically.
it's difficult not to notice how cheap these women's outfits appear. They're clearly costumes rather than real flight attendant uniforms, and they're clearly over-sexualized too. They're essentially dressed as fetishized versions of actual flight attendants, which is bizarre as one of the services
Which, you know, old school flight attendants, that was kind of the idea, right? I mean, even like the recruitment, I had seen a video once again about it, back in the days, like 50, 60, 70 years ago. Even the recruitment process was like, you know, you have to be a very good looking woman, and they had like some kind of like weird rules too about like not being married or not having a boyfriend or something like that. Kind of like idols, I guess.
that Aviloop claims to provide is staffing for flight crews, which would include actual flight attendants. Yet, for whatever reason, they chose to dress these girls in seductive costumes. If they were trying to make these advertisements look professional, they were failing miserably. And it wasn't only the outfits that had a strange sexual undertone to them, it was also the script that the girls were reading.
Whether you want to learn to fly, charter an airplane, or just see more girls like me,
Or to see more girls like me.
Aviloop can help.
Aviloop can help.
So what are you waiting for, Captain?
And remember Top Gun? Clearly your attractiveness increases with every flight under your belt.
Bizarrely, the videos themselves were filled with sexual innuendos.
Anyone who claims that humans were not meant to fly never experienced the thrill of their own successful landing. Get ready to fly big boy airplanes.
They were clearly trying to be
I mean, tangent, but I love the concept of we weren't meant to do something, but we're doing it anyway because we can. I mean, that's kind of what's great about humanity, right? We probably weren't meant to fly, you know, but we used our brain to do it.
more than a little flirty,
That's all.
which goes
Abilities.
hand in hand with the outfits that they were donning. Now, some might argue that this was a sign of the times. In 2011, edgy and over-sexualized marketing was still very much in the norm, with several major companies building their entire brands around the approach. But the only problem here is that the videos made it unclear what Aviloop was even supposed to be offering. Despite saying a lot, the lack of details made it entirely ineffective. Like the business itself was
I feel like where this is going is probably like some kind of prostitution company.
an afterthought, with the focus instead being on these women. In fact, even in the channel's description, they simply wrote, "Meet Aviloop deal attendants." This is the official page for a brand new company trying to promote its services, and that's all they had to say. That's how they marketed their entire company. Making some wonder what was actually the role of these deal attendants, and what was actually the purpose of Aviloop. The first and most likely theory at this point is that Aviloop was an overambitious company that used over-sexualized marketing to build intrigue around its brand, at a time when others were doing the same thing to great success. Maybe they weren't even off the ground yet and over-promising on services that they hoped to one day be able to provide, but for the time being were just throwing out there to get more people to visit their website. But with such a focus on these
I
deal
can't fix my
attendants
lights.
and just how strange these videos come across, some were left with a different theory, that rather than Aviloop using sex to sell their service, maybe sex was their service.
Seems like it.
The theory goes that Aviloop was a front for pornography or even prostitution, poorly hidden under the guise of this fake aeronautics company. This would explain the prominence of these deal attendants, as they themselves may have been the actresses or prostitutes. And it also explains the lack of information about the company itself, as the reason their deals and services don't seem to make any sense
go to the
is because
site.
they weren't actually offering them. It was all just a cover-up. And honestly, just going off the eye test, this is how the page comes across. But there are other details that make this theory a lot more compelling. For starters, in numerous videos they mention an unusual feature of their website, that users can vote for their favorite deal attendant and win prizes as a result.
You can even vote for your favorite deal attendant and win special prizes.
With one of these special prizes later being revealed to be a one-on-one video call with one of these deal attendants. This shows that the deal attendants weren't just for marketing, they were a core part of the services offered to Aviloop users, making one wonder what was actually happening on those video calls, and was it perhaps something sexual? And it goes even deeper than that, as there's a reason why I mentioned prostitution specifically in this theory, with that reason being a line mentioned in one of these videos.
To purchase this deal, you must hold at least a private pilot license and a current medical certificate. Don't miss out and click on that big blue button. You know you want to.
The deal attendant mentions that all customers needed to provide an up-to-date medical certificate. Now, this isn't something that's necessarily unheard of in the aviation world, but it certainly isn't the norm, at least
Is
from
it
what I
not?
could tell. But in the context of this theory,
I mean, I have no idea, but I would assume it is, right? In the same way, like people with some condition that might make them pass out cannot be allowed to drive and stuff like that, right? I assume it's the norm, yeah? You need to prove that you're, fully healthy to fly because, very dangerous, right? And also they literally said they also wanted like proof of the flight license or something.
it makes perfect sense. If they truly were operating some sort of prostitution ring, then their customers having an up-to-date medical certificate would be imperative to preventing the spread of.
Is it though? I mean, not that I've ever used any kind of service like that, but I don't think even escort ask for like medical record or something to prove that you don't have any STD. They just give you a fucking condom. I don't know if this is like a normal thing. Like, who's going to see, like a prostitute with like their freaking like medical record with the name and history and all that?
STDs. It's strange enough to make this theory feel legitimately possible, but even if it wasn't true, it seems obvious that there was something off with this channel.
I mean, frankly, like, it seems like a double thing. Either it is what he's saying, or it's just like some actual like company by some rich old man who's totally out of touch, and you know, that would explain it.
And we haven't even discussed the strangest part of it all. In a few videos, you can hear unusual sounds in the background.
And you want to add multi-engine to your Pretty Green license, this is your opportunity to do it at 50% off. Add multi-engine to your Pretty Green license, this is your opportunity.
It's either a woman moaning or a dog.
Your Pretty Green license, this is.
In the background, you can hear what appears to be someone moaning in a blatantly sexual manner,
which was loud enough for even the deal attendant to take notice. It's very
Okay,
unusual, and
I
certainly
guess.
not a sound that could just accidentally happen on a typical film set.
which makes it all the stranger that another inexplicable noise was heard in the background of a different video, and this one left viewers far more distressed.
You want to learn to fly, charter an airplane, or to see more girls like me? Aviloop can help. Or
I
to
didn't
see more
catch it.
girls like me? Aviloop can help. Or to see more girls like me? Aviloop can help.
It also sounds like moaning, I guess.
Some
But
believe
more
that this
guy.
is yet another sexual moan, while others swear they can hear a specific word.
Help,
The
I'm sure.
word help.
Nah, it sounds like a moan.
It's incredibly concerning, especially if this prostitution theory is true. I mean, there's just so many implications to it.
Given the link between prostitution and human trafficking,
But again, this could all be part of the marketing. Maybe this was all just a ploy to get people to visit their website, roping you in with these sexualized, creepy, and even concerning videos.
So what's actually on the
that almost
website?
demand that you dig deeper. Well, if this is the case, then surely visiting their
New York.
website would help put this mystery to bed. At the time these videos were uploaded back in 2011, those visiting the Aviloop website would be met with a rather lackluster experience. The homepage was dull and uninviting, and seemed about as vague as the videos promoting it. However, they did have an About section that attempted to describe the service more in depth. There, they mentioned that the primary goal of Aviloop was safety.
It literally looks like, you know, when you're trying to do a school report back in the thousands and you just use like the basic, like, you know, Notepad or Word to write your report or something.
They believed that making training and other aeronautic services more accessible could in turn help prevent accidents, which strangely was never even hinted at in their videos, and is never mentioned again on any other portion of the website. But it was in this About tab that they listed even more services that they claimed to provide. Services like navigation equipment, headsets, and pilot vacations, among many other things. Basically anything even remotely related to flying, they sold it. Or at least claimed to, and they insisted that they did so cheaper than anywhere else, by using collective bargaining, a process that they would go into greater detail about. Basically, Aviloop acts as a third party, partnering with aviation businesses to promote unique deals on their site. Each of these deals has a quota that must be hit for it to actually go through, so if enough people buy the deal, the quota is reached and everyone gets a voucher to do or receive whatever they paid for. But if the deal doesn't reach its quota, then everyone is refunded and the deal is voided without any cost to the users or the business. Aviloop was the middleman, which could
Sure.
explain how they managed to offer such impressive deals and such diverse services. Though again, this is just what they were saying, begging the question, was anything actually being sold on Aviloop.com? Well, there actually was. The deals were sorted by general locations, and most consisted of flying lessons, museum trips, or even temporary tattoos. However, there was
Okay.
something unusual about these listings.
Temporary tattoo?
Bizarrely, almost every deal on the site was marked as completed, each having ended in 1969, which obviously was impossible. There were only a select few deals throughout the entire website's history.
I'm stupid for thinking instantly, like, you know, choosing 69 specifically makes it even more sense now.
That were ever even active, and even then, there didn't seem to be a way to actually purchase them. This end date of 1969
So it's a
was
front
either some
website,
sort of
yeah.
glitch, or it was intentionally set that way, as the year just so happens to be yet another sexual innuendo. So what should prove the company's legitimacy
69.
actually only makes this company seem more suspicious. It was like they were trying to make it appear as if they were selling all these different things, yet in reality they were hardly offering anything, and what they were offering wasn't even available for purchase. This sent me on a hunt trying to find any sort of testimonials or reviews from any Aviloop customers, but strangely I couldn't find a single one. In fact, the only proof that I could find that anyone actually used the service was an Aviloop patch that I found floating around on eBay. And the only reason that this is at all significant is that these badges were included in most of the offers on the website. But this isn't substantial in any way, shape, or form, and it's clear that the seller wasn't actually a customer and was instead a patch collector that must have somehow obtained it, making me question if anyone actually ever bought something from this website, and if this whole marketplace was really just a ploy. Which takes us back to that lingering theory.
I mean, for a front website, it's kind of terrible, right? It's so basic, and then you get such obvious discrepancy, like all the deal ending in 69. It's a very weirdly not convincing front website or something.
Aviloop channel, the website featured these deal attendants, and just like the channel, they seemed to be the primary focus. Their involvement was plastered all over the website, with the whole business model appearing to hinge on their involvement, which the site was not afraid to outwardly admit. What is the first thing you look for on our deal pages? We understand. Go ahead, check out our deal attendants. They sure are stunning. Vote for your favorite deal attendant for a chance to win a one-on-one VIP video chat with one of the girls. You will find our models are not only beautiful, but also fun and interesting to talk to. Just have fun. Feel free to bask in the glory of your win and be the envy of your friends. After all, not everyone gets to
glory of your
video
win?
chatting with supermodels. The process of voting
I video chatted with a supermodel. I'm such a cool guy. What?
for the best deal attendant was something that they heavily pushed, going as far as to reward one voter each week with the aforementioned private video call. And when discussing these calls, they not so subtly hinted that they weren't just ordinary video chats, writing, "You will be talking to real successful fashion models with exciting backgrounds. Many are big aviation fans, so you will have a lot to talk about. You never know. Vote, win, chat. You never know."
You never know.
The allusion to sex was way more prevalent on the site than even on the channel.
With this line seeming to hint that winning these video calls could entail some sort of sexual encounter with the deal attendant, which only seems to bolster this theory even more.
Unless we
Unlike the
left
channel,
up to the
here we're at
imagination.
least given a bit more context as to why these women or deal attendants are being used, and according to the site, it wasn't as sinister as it seems. Under the business section, which is used as an FAQ for companies wanting to promote their deals on Aviloop, they wrote, "What is the deal with deal attendants? As a business, you have the option to include a professional video of one of our stunning models on your deal page for a flat fee. She will deliver a 30 to 60 second message describing your promotion. Our deal attendants are real professional models who work for high-end clients. Why should I include a deal attendant? Although our promotions get a lot of exposure, adding a deal attendant has the potential of making it viral on social media sites. Promotions that include a video tend to be extra successful." There's a lot to unpack here. For starters, this explains how Aviloop makes their money. They're basically charging companies to run ads using these deal attendants.
I don't know how they want this like short ads to go viral. I mean, the girls are cute, but why would this go viral outside of like in an expose video like this?
Are examples of what these ads would look like, though calling them professional is extremely generous, and I can't imagine any companies actually wanting to use the service. And given that these are the only videos that they shared, I don't think many, if any, actually did. But in this explanation, Aviloop is all but admitting to using these deal attendants to rope people into visiting their website, over-sexualizing them to lure in perverted internet users, giving them false hope that they'd be able to
Wouldn't
interact
be
with
me.
these women and maybe even sleep
I never click on any sexual thumbnail. Couldn't be me.
with them. And in exchange, these users keep coming back to the site under this false hope, which maybe could lead to them purchasing something. It's an insane business model, and one that really doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I mean, they're claiming that
Especially for aviation, I mean. I understand again, flight attendant, good-looking model culture was a thing, and maybe it's still a thing to an extent, but it still all seemed too weird.
that this is a service for professionals and real aviation fans for the primary reason of making our skies safer, yet they aren't actually offering anything but the prospect of talking to women. These women are the main and really only draw of the service, and even the deals that they did list seem to contradict the primary goal of this company. I mean, how would a trip to the museum help with aviation safety? And how would a temporary tattoo help with that
Seeing how people died.
either? And on the topic of these tattoos, they're also extremely sexual in nature. They were meant to mimic pilot stripes and be put on your shirtless shoulders, with a package reading, "When a uniform just won't do," and the description adding all sorts of innuendos. And this is a good time to... in the description adding all sorts of innuendos.
They are easy to apply and quick to remove when the fun is over. You didn't want to read that.
And this is a good time to point out just how strange the writing is across the entire website. As here they write, "What better way to thank a pilot
So this is all about role-playing as like a pilot captain, basically? Aeronautic?
than by saying, 'Captain, you deserve to have your epaulets tattooed. We wish someone had these on board of the Miracle on the Hudson flight.' Just imagine the look on the pilot's face if someone handed these to him. So why not keep a pair in your wallet and thank the Sully in your life for the next flight? Every safe landing deserves recognition, and this gift is sure to make your day."
Yeah, I saw that, but I don't know if I'll watch it soon. I mean, maybe I'll wait until all the videos are out to finish it. Yeah.
Everything is written like this. It's not only sexual, it's also nonsensical, and feels like it was written by AI at a time when AI wasn't even a thing.
Right?
Everything about Aviloop feels wrong. The lack of any tangible goods and services, the overly convoluted business structure, and the lack of any public customers just makes this company appear so fake.
Sassy.
But that doesn't inherently mean that they were actually involved in pornography or prostitution. I mean, despite all these innuendos, there is no direct mention of the sale of sex anywhere on the website from what I could see. And unfortunately, much of the website is lost to time, as in 2016 the site would go down, replaced by another random URL, making it impossible to know what this platform was actually like for those who signed up for it. What were they actually being offered? What were they discussing amongst themselves? And what happened on these video calls? It's all unknown, as what I've shown is pretty much all I was able to salvage from the
Mystery.
However, Aviloop didn't stay down forever. In 2019, Aviloop.com re-emerged, only this time it looked very different. Gone were the deals, the business model, and most importantly, the deal attendants, and in its place was what looked to be a generic template website. They still claimed to offer some of their services, but they were now left even more vague, and there was no attempt to even make it look like you could purchase anything. Even the innuendos were gone. It was quite literally as bare bones as it
Looks very
gets,
normal, yeah.
and comes across like a sham website, void of any notable information. With one exception.
Oh.
There was a single new addition to the site, as at the very bottom you could find a short bio, not of a deal attendant, but of a legitimate pilot named Nadia Marinko, the creator of Aviloop. This revelation is huge, as Nadia Marinko was a well-known and extremely successful pilot, which makes Aviloop all the more confusing, as you would think that her involvement in the company would help legitimize it, and make it seem more likely that Aviloop was a real company after all. But instead, it actually did the exact opposite, as her involvement plunges this mystery into a whole new depth, a depth far darker than we've yet to discuss.
Why? What did she do?
Born in Czechoslovakia in 1986, Nadia dedicated her younger years to modeling, landing multiple high-profile roles in her country. And by the age of just 15, these roles led to her being moved to the United States to help continue this budding career.
Random tangent, but Czechoslovakia is not a thing, right? Well, it's not a thing anymore. It, descended into a bunch of stuff like the Czech Republic and some of the other countries around there, right? Kind of like Yugoslavia? Or am I confusing the two?
But by 20, her interest had shifted to a different kind of runway. She became obsessed with flying and had a natural talent for it too, quickly rising through the ranks and gaining certification.
All this flying stuff, I've been playing Ace Combat recently, like literally before this stream I was playing Ace Combat 4 on PS2. Really fun game. I never thought I really cared about like playing games before, but Ace Combat are really, really fun.
Faster than most others could at that age. By 25, she was considered extremely accomplished for someone so
Share both of them, I mean, maybe I'll even watch both.
young, and her resume would soon reach a wider audience when she began leveraging social media.
I mean, she's literally a model-looking woman, so, course she'd be popular. And on top of it, she has skills with planes.
She posted videos under the alias
It's a nice
Girl and eventually
contrast.
Global Girl, where
The
she marketed
Maurice.
herself as a supermodel turned pilot, which worked to the tune of millions of views. Nadia Marenko was a star in the aviation world and on social media too, and it was during the height of this success that she started Aviloop. It clearly wasn't meant to be some big secret either. She actively promoted it on numerous occasions, doing interviews on podcasts and even taking it to a trade show. If this was a front for something nefarious, she was doing a bad job of keeping it discreet, which seems to back up our first theory. And it would be very easy to settle on that theory and just call it a day, had being a model and a pilot been all that Nadia was known for.
Okay. What else is she known for?
You see, there was something that she was hiding from her audience, a secret in the form of a bond with one man whom she was working closely with at the time that Aviloop was launched.
It's gonna be some predator guy.
A man by the name
Oh.
of Jeffrey Epstein.
I did not see that one coming. What a twist.
Jeffrey Epstein has been arrested on new sex trafficking charges.
Okay, well, that obviously changes everything. Like, I was really thinking that he's digging, you know, obviously he's building a story with this video, right? He was keeping all this info for most of the video, but I was thinking, you know, it's all a bit sus, but not that sus, I feel like. But now, okay, it's like, he was very likely right. Okay, now that's fucked up. Huh? Well, shit. Okay, now that's really fucked up. Edenil.
Charges of soliciting and procuring minors for prostitution.
He was involved in trafficking young women and children.
Like everybody was involved with Jeffrey Epstein, is what it feels like.
In case you're somehow unaware, Jeffrey Epstein is—
How many like billion of people did this guy get involved with, seriously? You're him now with former Prince Andrew. Yeah, I remember seeing the interview with that guy.
the most prolific pedophile and human trafficker maybe of all time. He carried out a large-scale human trafficking operation, bringing children to his private island that he and other elites exploited in horrific ways. It's one of the biggest news stories of my lifetime, and over the past years there's been so much talk—
Same, and I guess most of us, and yet nothing is happening, right? Like, only a fraction of the people are being like, prosecuted or whatever, right? The literal president of the United States was very obviously extremely involved. It's just being cheating. I mean, I don't think I need to recap, we've all seen the news, but what a world we live in.
surrounding the acquaintances of Epstein, who is connected with him and how close were they. But of all these people in Epstein's circle, few, if any, were closer to him than Nadia Marenko.
Since Charles
It's a
II in
difficult subject to
1640.
discuss, but Nadia is considered one of Epstein's victims. He found her through her modeling job when she was just a teenager.
And she didn't just come to the United States for work. Epstein himself brought her,
After allegedly purchasing her from her father, what followed was Nadia becoming his self-described sex slave.
Okay,
It's a
that's,
horrible and unimaginable fate. But while Nadia appeared to have been a victim of Epstein, that wasn't all
Beheaded.
she was. As after becoming an adult,
I mean, you know, I can't feel too bad. Yeah, maybe it's the French blood in me.
she also became Epstein's accomplice. When Epstein was first investigated by the FBI back in the 2000s, many of his victims came forward and claimed that Nadia was not only present for their abuse, but she was a willing participant, there to satisfy Epstein's criminal sexual desires by, on occasion, directly participating in sex abuse and prostitution.
I mean, not to defend her, but it's always the thing with stuff like that, right? If she was, you know, since a child, the victim of all this herself, it's no surprise that she turned out fucked up, you know? Doesn't excuse that she actively took part in all the fucked up stuff, but it's totally understandable, yeah, how things ended up like this. I feel like, you know, in 40 years, if I'm still alive, we're still gonna hear about all the stuff about Epstein and all the fall down and the fallout of all this. It's kind of insane, yeah. Revolutionary Republic, seeing over 150 years before France.
Of the minor girls. Now, Epstein was eventually given a sweetheart deal for these crimes in 2008, which led to him serving just 13 months in prison. As part of that deal, Nadia was given complete immunity, meaning she never faced any sort of repercussions for her use of children. But despite being a free woman by the time that Epstein was thrown in jail, she stood by his side, living in his New York City home, waiting for his release. And while he was behind bars, Nadia would visit him roughly 70 times. These two were deeply connected, even well after she was his slave, with Nadia even making a scrapbook for Epstein, which is just so terrifying that I had to at least mention it in this video.
What the fuck am I looking at?
It would be several years later in 2012, a time when Nadia had long since left Epstein's home and his control, that Nadia would rejoin his operation, this time with a brand new role. She became one of Epstein's pilots, taking victims and perpetrators alike to and from the island, on the plane they dubbed the Lolita Express.
I mean, frankly, I haven't really looked into it deeply, because there's so much news about it. You know, I feel like it's the kind of thing where, like, again, we're gonna need to wait some years for, like, someone to make some kind of a big, maybe YouTube video, because that's what I watch, right? Big YouTube video really covering everything and explaining everything once, you know, everything's come to light, because I guess we're still in the middle of it, right? There's still a ton of stuff that hasn't been released from the papers or whatever. A ton of people who haven't been prosecuted, so yeah, this is gonna take a long time, maybe even decades. Again, I've only seen like headlines and stuff like that, and there's just so much, it's like, it's insane.
What happened on the Lolita Express?
Everything that happened on the Lolita Express and his other planes was the same thing that happened in his bedrooms and the massage rooms. The abuse did not stop because we're in the air. Jeffrey couldn't take a 2-hour flight without having to ejaculate. Like, that's how sick this man was.
Nadia Marenko was directly trafficking children for Epstein, and she was doing this in 2012, mere months after she started Aviloop.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, okay. I totally believe now Aviloop was some kind of weird, fucked up front, yeah? Yeah.
Which brings us to our third and most upsetting theory. That Aviloop wasn't a cover for prostitution, but rather a front for child trafficking and pedophilia.
I mean, I don't think you need to say allegedly anymore.
And the timing of the company's launch, mixed with all the innuendos, the red flags, it all starts to make sense. And it's made even more disturbing when you look at the videos they posted on YouTube, as one thing I failed to mention so far is just how young these deal attendants look. There's obviously no way to conclusively determine their age from the footage, but some believe that they look to be teenagers, and maybe even underaged, which would make sense for this theory, as the deal attendants wouldn't be prostitutes, but rather child victims. It's a theory that has to be considered. I mean, as crazy as it seems, Aviloop was quite literally founded and run by a child trafficker who was actively trafficking children when the company started. And Nadia wasn't the only sketchy character involved in the site behind the scenes. Epstein himself was as well. The two frequently emailed each other, and in multiple instances, Aviloop was discussed, with Epstein frequently giving her advice. In one email, he wrote to her, "Website is cool, mix of porn, Groupon, and flying. The marketing campaign could be, buy with us, we give a flying fuck." His mentioning of porn here is just more confirmation that Aviloop wasn't just an aviation company, but this also shows that Epstein was helping with the company, and he wasn't just doing this through friendly advice. Throughout his emails, you can also find dozens of receipts from transactions with Aviloop, totaling hundreds of thousands of dollars of payments sent directly to the company. Jeffrey Epstein was an investor in Aviloop, and a big one too.
I mean, there's literally like no question anymore, it's pretty obvious.
And he seemed to believe in the service so much that he even appeared to use it himself, as emails show him inquiring about booking flights through the company. Nadia at one point even offered to help Epstein through Aviloop, writing, "Is there anything I can do for you? I can find a deal through Aviloop on anything you want. Airplanes, helicopters, cheapest charters, discounted fuel, or a new model/assistant." She's literally offering Jeffrey Epstein a model through Aviloop, which more than hints at this theory being possible. I mean, she spells it out. And if they were in fact trafficking children through this service, this could give us a blueprint to how they were able to get their victims. Maybe they were finding models and having them...
The thing I still don't get is that what even was the point of all this? Like a bunch of short videos telling to go to the website, and then a website where like you can't buy anything because it's all sold out, and it didn't look like there was any way to contact anybody. So like, what even was the point of all this?
Fly out under the assumption that modeling is all they would be doing. Maybe these videos were even their tryouts for their roles, which they did without even realizing what was to come. I mean, these women were referred to as models on the Aviloop website. And remember, modeling is exactly how Epstein found Nadia. And it's also how he found so many other victims, as he was known to use the modeling industry as a means of recruiting young and underage women, offering them high-paying jobs and potentially career-making opportunities in order to lure them in. So maybe this was all part of the operation, or maybe Nadia was simply taking a page from his book and using the same style of entrapment that he used on her. It's so disturbing to even consider. And there's one more email that I believe is the most disturbing of all.
And again, from all the stuff, which is probably far from everything that I've seen from the stuff he was doing, or that I've read, I guess, this doesn't seem that crazy.
That could allude to their alleged trafficking. An email with the subject line, Old Hairy Coconuts. I ordered sweet young coconuts from Thailand for you, and they just arrived. Very yummy. I was going to ship them to you in Paris, but I hear you are coming back, so I will send them to 71st with Sarah, just so you don't have to drink juices from old hairy things. Epstein was notorious for using code words in his messages, and it's not hard to see what Nadia may have meant by sweet young coconuts.
Code words.
So was it a joke or was it a coded message? It's hard to say, but this email was sent on November 13th, 2011, just 2 months after the launch of Aviloop.
Welcome to Aviloop, your collective buying website for anything aviation.
So what was Aviloop? Well, to this day, we still don't have a true answer, but very likely there's going to be a clear answer eventually. Everyone has their theories, and most of them are not good. Many legitimately believe that Aviloop was a front for child trafficking, and I can see why. The connections and the strange material on the website and the channel make this impossible to write off as just some crazy conspiracy theory. And if this theory were to be believed, it makes the Aviloop YouTube channel that much more disturbing, as these videos would be advertisements for a human trafficking service that potentially included the victims as the stars. It's also possible that this was a hub for prostitution, and while sex work does—
which I assume is far from the only time this was ever happened. I mean, the amount of shit that is on YouTube. Stuff like this has probably happened multiple times.
Doesn't always mean human trafficking. Just given the players involved, that would definitely still be a concern. There's also still the possibility that Aviloop was secretly a porn website, like Epstein seemed to suggest in his email, with this content perhaps occurring on those one-on-one video calls. And there was one email that I found that was sent from Epstein's assistant, Story Cowles, that makes this feel even more believable, as Epstein asks him what he was up to which Story responds,
"Just playing online at Aviloop. Pouring rain. Love it, love it."
The way these people communicate is just so weird and hard to decipher, but playing online at Aviloop certainly seems to suggest that this wasn't just a typical daily deals website. And if porn really was the draw, I think given the secrecy of it and the people connected, I would still be very concerned about where they were getting these actresses, and if they were even of age. Nadia's legal team has pushed back on these theories, claiming she was merely Epstein's victim and nothing more, and someone who allegedly worked at Aviloop claimed that the ad campaign was merely—
I mean, again, how many times does the victim become the perpetrator? That's just the loop.
meant to be provocative, and that's all. This just feels so hard to believe. And regardless of which, if any of these theories are true, it seems so obvious to me that Aviloop was never meant to just be a normal company. I even question if perhaps Nadia had created Aviloop as a fake website, which Epstein could then funnel money into in order to make it look like Nadia was earning legitimate income, something that she needed to prove in order to get her US visa, which her emails to Epstein show she was clearly struggling with. And she seemed to allude to this at least being part of her reasoning for creating Aviloop in the first place, and part of the reason why she was asking Epstein for money. And ultimately, the only way she ended up getting that visa was through a deal that she made with the FBI that involved her informing them on Epstein's crimes. Her work directly helped lead to his 2019 arrest, and his ultimate death inside his jail cell that same year. And it was around the same time that Aviloop went back online with its fresh, scrubbed look, void of anything even close to being sexual. And since then, it's never been updated again. And there's hardly been any updates from Nadia herself either. She made a brief appearance in a 2019 YouTube video where she pulled a prank on a flying instructor, acting as an inexperienced student only to surprise the instructor with how skilled she was, with Nadia going as far as to dress as a child. But since then, her trail goes pretty much cold, and once the Epstein files started releasing around 2024, she disappeared from the public eye. Bizarrely, from that point on, the only trace of her seems to have come from images and videos from a monastery, which she seems to have joined.
Okay.
Nadia Mariko's work with the FBI and the immunity that she was given all those years ago makes it feel unlikely that she'll ever be prosecuted, or even investigated for whatever this whole operation was.
And this whole concept of immunity, it's just... I mean, I get it in the grand scheme of things, right? Like, she's one messed up person who will get immunity, but in exchange she gives up the big bad guy who, you know, really needs to be taken down, and it will lead to more other people being taken down. But it's still kind of like, it always kind of leaves a, you know, in a case like this, a shitty taste, right? Like in smaller case, you know, like, I don't know, someone, you know, like, did a bank robbery and one of the other guys shot someone, and so that guy confessed that guy did it for immunity. I guess it's like, fine, but in a case like this, you know.
The reality, though, is that we don't know the full truth about Aviloop, and it's involved
Not
in
yet,
one of the
but I
most
feel
twisted
like
and deep rabbit
it's
holes
gonna
in
come
human
out.
history. A rabbit hole filled with so
People's
many layers
profile,
and
yeah.
cover-ups.
We did a video about Emperor Meiji 2 weeks ago, I think.
And corruption that I just hope that somewhere within all of it, we can eventually find an answer to the question, what was Aviloop? But until then, it will remain one of the darkest mysteries, not only on YouTube, but across the entire internet.
There's a lot of fucked up shit on YouTube, so you know. The unfortunate thing is that the darkest is probably like a long list, huh? But I agree that this fits in, yeah. And it's, I mean, again, it's allegedly, because we don't have clear proof, but it seems pretty obvious, huh? Like there's no other way that it's not that. Sheesh. Yeah. Yeah, but I've already seen the Epic History series, as well as a channel called Historically Inadequate, so, you know, I think I've seen, like, deeper videos than, you know, than that, I assume. But yeah, what can I say? Absolutely fucked up. I'm sure, like, this is gonna come out, right? I mean, again, there's so much fucking going on with this case, and so many people involved, so, you know, it's so much cover-up going on and all that. But I'm sure it's going to, like, happen, right? But I guess if she did some fucked up stuff, she won't be prosecuted. I don't know. I don't know how immunity works. Like, is it immunity for all the crime? I don't know how it works. Anyway, yeah, this was definitely fucking dark. Even though, again, there's no clear proof, but it still seems more than obvious. All I can say. Here's the link. What a video. This was messed up. I guess this is why he didn't upload in a long time. I guess he was doing research, right? A branch channel, dynasty profile, family dynasties. Interesting. Okay, well, let's rinse our mouths with be less fucked up videos, you know. This, I don't know, what do we watch? Maybe the Hololive video. That would be nice. Right here. Yeah, this one. Mentally ill, sick, rich elite. Yeah. Maybe, you know, we all want to be rich, but, you know, maybe it's not good, because then you can do whatever fucked up thing you want to do, and it really makes people, you know, not hold themselves back, I guess. Anyway, by .cg, Hololive members, subscriber ranking, first person view. Okay. The kaiju. This is just an excuse to see panties. Okay, why is Jessie looking so weird? Hello Clément, good. How about you? Might still be good eye, yeah? They look kind of all like these models. By the way, this video is from 6 months ago, so... Okay. Kids too. I guess the newest GP wave at the bottom, and some young members. Yeah, Ian really surprisingly at the bottom. Huh? I guess only Liszt really gets big. I mean, subscriber numbers don't mean much anyway. Like some of the lowest subscriber numbers actually have the most live viewers, right? Canada. This really looks like an organ. ID. What is your ID? The Shinama design, amazing. So, Ibu, I think she's at 1 million by now, yeah. Definitely. This is also at 1 million now. A clean 1 million for Zeta. Thick ties, thick lies. Big girls with pleasure. I'm not into giantess myself, it's not really my thing. But people love it. Then already at 1 million for everybody. Rat. I don't know where you found these models, they're not like the more expressive looking MMD models that people usually use. I don't know how people make this kind of videos because I've seen some before. I don't know if this is making some game engine or animation engine. Kisnal. I mean, she has like 3 million, I think. Iris. Nanora. This is really just an excuse to look under the skirt. Beaucoup. I really don't hear much about Morocco these days. I mean, I'm sure she's doing her own thing, but she doesn't really show up in clips too much or anything. What is that walk for flair? Goofy animation. But I don't know. Fois beaucoup. Asleep. Crazy, the resurgence of Asleep, you know. I mean, since she became kind of a streamer, right? A company like Hololive? I'm sure there's some French VTuber company, but I literally couldn't tell you. I am discriminatory against foreign people, but I don't actually watch any French VTuber. Like, the only French VTuber I can name is Sadoway. That's it. I don't think I know anybody else than Sadoway, top of my head. I know we might have checked out some other before, but I can't remember them. Yeah. So, I don't know. I had a comment recently on a video by a French guy telling me like, why are you speaking English? You should speak in French. And I was like, why are you saying that? There's more people who speak English, so it's a bigger audience. And he said, you know, because there's so little French reaction channel reacting to the stuff you react to. So if you did it in French, you know, I guess you might have more viewers or something, but I don't know if I really agree with that logic. I mean, you know, it is getting bigger. The golden age of nice zombie. The golden age was during COVID, obviously. Like the growth there was insane, but I'm sure slowly it's still getting bigger, you know. And at this point, VTuber and anime is really intertwined, right? I mean, a lot of VTubers are doing anime songs. Like 3 years ago, every time one would do an anime song, I was really like surprised and really happy and would make a reaction, but now it's like happening all the time, so it's not as big of a deal, you know? The industry have really kind of like collided. But I don't know. An interview of VTuber company. I've never interviewed anyone, no. I have been interviewed once myself by a Korean online fan magazine of the VTuber group Isegero. Wow. Canada. I'm sad. Yodayo. You have to be in this on GM. Like, on one side I could make a joke about how bad and, you know, how much of a bad place it is and reputation, but on the other side also, I clearly don't have, you know, the talent of the people who get into it. Like, I usually have no type of special skills. Isn't Subaru at like 3 million now? Adrian, no. Sugoi Dekai. Electricity. Big Cat. If Giantess Fetish is your thing, as well as Hololive, there's like a fan animator on YouTube, Alice, I think, that has been doing that for years with a Hololive character. Kelly. Where's Cowboy destroying the building? So göttlich, wieder mit auf. Oh. Did you say with the goofiest looking walk? She's walking like a big man Taiwan. Yago, hein. Ok. Docu des mots d'or. Does Yago look like he's in a chill out game? Damn, Marine 4.2. I think Marine is a bit good at this point, no? I guess we can just check it. Marine is at 4.35 million. Oh, okay. Good, is at 4.64, so I guess 300,000 subs to go for Marine, and then she'll be #1. Okay, well, that was interesting to watch. I mean, you know, I don't really care that much about the subscriber count of the VTuber I watch, you know? Like, 90% of VTuber I watch have like 20,000 subs max. You know, again, like, especially for like popular company VTubers, numbers don't really reflect, right? Like, they might have 1 million subs, but only like 1,000 viewers. And then, like, you know, someone smaller with 500,000 might have 5,000 viewers, right? There's weirdly like such a weird disparity between subscriber count and live viewership. It's always interesting. Okay, I mean, I don't know if there's correlation. Decent VTubers or selfish VTuber? Like, in what way do you mean that? I don't know. I don't know. Cool video. Okay, that was a good palette washer after the last stuff, I would say. By the way, once again, sorry if my lighting isn't great today. Unfortunately, the light I have at my feet is just bugging out like this, and I cannot fix it right now. It's really annoying, but it's not fixing. So I only have 2 lights today. And this one is Radon, sure. What's a selfish VTuber then? Yeah. I guess let's do an history video next. Or actually, we could do this one, then this one, and then an history video. Or and then this one. And then... I don't know. I like this one. Okay, in this order. So this one is China's Disturbing Fixed Smile Obsession by Woni.
I see that face you're making. Come on, I want to see your beautiful smile. Nobody likes being sad and chopped, so wipe that frown off your face. You see, smiling evokes a sense of happiness and joy, and you look more friendly too. Oof. So why don't we start smiling forever? Permanently. Yeah, that's where we are today with the influencer face aesthetic, a perfect addition to make things even more unsettling than it already was. We're talking.
The fuck am I looking at? They propose happiness to human.
Talking about one of the most unhinged beauty aesthetics floating around in China right now, called the smiling lips, or the M-shaped lips look. So you might be stuck looking happy forever while your life is falling apart. Sounds relatable.
You don't even look happy, you look like the Joker.
Relatable, doesn't it? Now, in a lot of Asian beauty standards, there's this preference for lips that look both cute and a little bit spicy. They want that clean Cupid's bow shape, the slightly thicker lips, and corners of your lips to tilt up just enough to get that I'm sweet and harmless kind of vibe.
Just don't be fucking lazy and smile. Like, What?
Or the idea of kissable lips. On Chinese social media across Douyin and Kuaishou, these M-shaped lips have become super viral. But one thing people started hyperfixating on was the philtrum, which is the space between your nose and your upper lip. So this part right here.
Yes.
And apparently, if it's too long, it makes your face look older and not appealing. You essentially look like a more serious person, according to most Chinese influencers. So that is worse than death. They'll post before and after pics like, guys, I didn't even realize what was wrong with my face until I realized my philtrum was ruining my life. And now suddenly everyone's staring at their face.
I mean, again, like all of this kind of things, you know, all the, like the recent trend in actors and actresses to like get the buccal fat out or something, which makes their face looks very like hollow down, right? So it's, yeah, it's all some kind of like really fucked up self-esteem thing. That's all it is, right? So, like, you know, it's going from, you know, I'm too fat to this specific bit of my body is not right, and then it's like every specific bit or something. Like, some of it might look funny, some of it might look creepy, but it's all very sad, you know? It's all very, very sad, yeah. Like, there's some kids that are fine, like some people have some really like fucked up nose, you know. I can understand fixing that, but come on. Yeah. The European have the sense that bigger eyelid with eye are beautiful. I have no idea. Clearly, you can tell I'm not someone who's really into body standard or anything. I don't really know, like, I genuinely don't know what's considered nice or not. Big eyes, small eyes. I just know big boobs, big ass is nice. Like, beyond that, I genuinely don't know what it is. I think around here, like in Europe, I think people are more into, like, people don't mind sick women. But I know in Asia, obviously, like, you know, thinness is kind of the name of the game, right? Not always, right? It's a stereotype, but you know what I mean? Yeah, I don't know. I don't know too much about this.
In the mirror, like, wait, is mine too long? Basically, you're trying to always look like you're approachable and charming, even though you're probably depressed. This is essentially how you want to level up your lip aura so that you can attract others romantically, you know.
But it looks wrong, like the little gap on the side. It looks wrong.
Without side effects. Clearly, right? I mean, this was for sure not the resting face solution that I was trying to find. Now, the thing about this M-shaped lip aesthetic is that it's much more riskier than most procedures because you can't just copy someone else's lips with a reference photo. Everyone's face proportions are different, but people still go to clinics like, yeah, give me this exact one. And then they are surprised that it looks completely different from what they wanted. And depending on your face, or depending on how closely you resemble,
like the only kind of surgical, what's the word for it? Yeah, like plastic surgery operation I've definitely thought about. You know, when I was young, I got fat really fast. And when you get fat really fast, you know, your skin doesn't have time to adapt, so it stretches. I don't know if you guys can really see, but like on my arms, for example, I've got like this crazy like stretch mark or whatever, you know. I don't know what they're called in English. You know, they look pretty terrible up close, like crazy scars, I guess. You know, I don't actually care that much. I used to care a lot when I was young. Like at school, I would always wear like long sleeve, you know, because I didn't want people to see it. But these days, I don't really care. You know, but still, like, you know, if I ever had the money, I was rich enough to care, I guess I would get that fixed. If I lost the weight and stayed not fat for a long time. But otherwise, yeah, there's like, I don't know what else I haven't considered or I've considered, right? I mean, it's just one of those things, you know. Obviously, I never really cared too much about my appearance, but it's crazy to even think of like modifying your lips to me, and like having like a gap like that.
The Douyin face aesthetic, there are mainly two procedures. Number one is philtrum shortening, and this is where they shorten the distance between your nose and your upper lip, because apparently this gap is ruining lives.
But like, I feel like something like that must have some other consequences you don't think about. Like shortening anything must have some consequences.
Doctors will remove around 4 to 9 millimeters of skin right below your nose, and they'll just stitch it back up together so that your upper lip is higher. And boom, your lips...
Perspective about beauty that men don't agree. In Twitter, some women hate men hated lookism, but women use term about the specific space of face that no man understand. I mean, Twitter is Twitter.
Look more defined and you're now more youthful. People with long philtrums don't look young. Their smile isn't sweet. Sometimes they even look like monkeys. Now let's talk about this.
Someone who talks like this needs to go to a mental asylum. That's about it.
Second procedure that makes this an all-in-one combo, the permanent smile lift. So a lot of people have what's called a downturned mouth. Basically, their resting face looks either tired or a bit sad.
This is my resting face. Is my mouth like up or down? Okay, let me try to do a real resting face. I feel like I'm smiling. Okay, I can't do it. I can only do it when I don't think about it.
Or, you know, like a neutral face, a regular face. But instead of having a plain normie face, many celebrities will remove a small triangular piece of skin from the corners of their mouths. Then they reposition the muscles that lift your mouth corners up and weaken the ones that pull them down. Some even go as far as cutting all your muscles out so that the mouth stays lifted. And now your face is basically smiling forever.
今天是术后的第3天，嘴巴还是有一点点肿。
Just a little bit. You could be going through the worst day of your life, like talking to a girl that says she wants to be with you, but then says she's not ready for a relationship, but loves the...
Have you had a makeup? Nope. Why would I?
Attention that you...
I know some guys use makeup, but no, I haven't, I guess.
Give them, and then you end up spending half your bank account on them just for you to realize that they said the same thing to another guy, but you'll still be smiling. If we take a look at this influencer right here, they got the M-shaped lips, but it messed up the first time, so she kept having to redo it multiple times. So many layers were gone at the very end just to fix the first time it messed up.
我因为做了 M 唇，然后修复了3、4回才到我现在的嘴唇。当时跟主刀的大白就说我要非常非常 M， 下嘴唇也要非常非常 M 的形状。做完当时就是这个样子的，是一个非常非常 M 的一个形状。我当时还是非常非常满意的。做完之后没多久，问题就开始慢慢的来了。我原先就不高的唇峰变得越来越低，日中也看起来更长。于是后面就想办法去补救，开始打波波。结果去的组织太多，导致波波太软，完全撑不起中间的疤痕，反而往两边扩散，形状感觉更加明显了，嘴巴更难看。后来忍无可忍了，把唇中切掉。切掉了上唇中之后，上嘴唇确实看起来相对来讲没那么奇怪了，但是还是很丑。 笑起来基本上没有嘴唇，上唇又继续打波波。后来一狠心又去做了个人中3件套，虽然现在嘴巴也回不到当初了，起码比之前正常了很多。所以我觉得 M 唇还是不要盲目的去追求。
So many doctors started warning people, saying that you could end up with scars.
I think the stupidest thing is like stuff like this, right? Someone like I don't think there's like, you know, you can't just make a general statement that like one thing is not attractive, right? I mean, even some women with crazy long nose can be attractive. It just depends on the person, right? But clearly in this kind of like beauty community things, I mean, you know, people are just stuck in trying to follow a template, I guess, you know? Like, eyes need to be this size and stuff like that. It's kind of insane, yeah.
Insane. Stretched lips, or even looking like a clown. But come on, who listens to doctors? We listen to influencers, which leads us to this wild case of Yu Bing, a 29-year-old fashion entrepreneur who spent about 800,000 yuan, roughly $170,000, on 20 procedures in just 2 years. Her goal was to turn herself into the actress Fan Bingbing. She pretty much wanted to copy and paste someone else's face onto hers. Not really that uncommon nowadays, honestly. She had multiple nose jobs, chin reshaping, eye enlargements, and our beloved M-shaped lips. And doesn't stop there, she even paid for her younger brother to get procedures and even encouraged her friends to do it too. And her favorite hobby? Taking selfies. Just to figure out what to change next with her face. But that ain't a hobby, that's a full identity crisis. And of course, her family was not okay with this at all.
I mean again, you know, there is a level of like, I'll say, you know, I need to fix that with surgery, but this is mental illness, literally, like body dysmorphia, I think it's called. You know, like I feel like this is the kind of shit that the government should step in. At the same time, I hate when the government step in and say that anything is not allowed. People should be allowed to be stupid, but at the same time, Like if someone is literally doing this amount of surgery on their face, you know, not because of health issues, but they're basically creating health issues for themselves. I don't know. It's insane.
She went on this talk show called 4 Famous Helpers, where her mom literally cried and begged her to stop doing these procedures. She even said to her own daughter, "I don't even recognize you anymore. You look like a monster." Yeah,
Oof.
that's how far it had gone. Imagine your mother telling you that on live television. She eventually warned Yu Bing, "If you don't stop having more surgeries, I don't want anything to do with you. It hurts me too much." And Yu Bing is just sitting there, smiling. Not because she's happy, but because she physically can't stop. When they asked her why she wasn't reacting, she said, "I'm very upset, but I can't cry because I had surgery to lift the corners of my mouth."
Which is literally what people have been complaining a lot recently and last few years with all the Hollywood celebrities who had, you know, a lot of like facial surgeries, right? And basically they just contact. They can barely like move their forehead, you know, and there's been a lot of celebrities who used to be considered good actor or actress who now are considered bad because again they can barely move their face. It's been kind of like a weird epidemic of that. The term in English, but means a bug who thinks the glitter body is the more beautiful, only has sex with a dropped beer bottle. What the fuck kind of saying is that? But okay. Okay.
She legit couldn't express any emotions at this point.
你心疼妈妈吗？我心疼，我也想哭。我不是微笑，我是做了嘴角上扬。我跟我妈说了，我对我妈其实挺孝顺的，我也不跟她顶嘴，我也不干嘛，我自己赚钱，我就觉得我只想整容，我觉得
我也说出我的心里话，我希望你到此为止吧，不要再做了，你真的不要再伤害你的妈妈了，我真的承受不起。
妈妈对不起。
And after
I don't know, like maybe I'm thinking too much. Again, it's a personal choice. Like it's both a mental illness and a personal choice. So like, you know, people should do what they want. I mean, even if they get terrible complication and die from it. I mean, I don't know. I guess you've got the freedom to do it. You know, like you've got the freedom to like go to a bar, drink, and you know nothing is stopping you from getting behind the wheels after that. But your own choice. I guess it's the same thing with this. You know, like. Yeah.
After a long lecture with many back and forths, everybody sided with her mom, and Yu Bing finally broke down and cried. But the damage was obvious. It was still pretty bad. Doctors keep stressing that these procedures require insane precision, like we're talking about your face. Even with advanced techniques, even if they try to hide the stitches in your nose or lips. I was so foolish, sister. I regret it so much now. There's nothing I can do. Why? To be honest, after it heals, there will be a very ugly scar, a white line. It will look ugly when you smile and your mouth will feel wooden. Even lipstick can't completely cover the scar. It's only okay when you don't smile. If you can't smile at all, it will be extremely ugly. I mean, yeah, I'm not really that surprised.
千万别找庸医做这个M唇，大家看一下我这个嘴，是不是有点似曾相识，像兔唇？已经1年多了，嘴唇一直没有知觉。 伤了神经，而且现在上嘴唇超薄，所以现在我还要调整，把这个嘴还要把它再弄厚。你说说，花了1万多块又白折腾，就是很凉，每天摸着就冰冰凉凉，没有知觉。你们知道什么感觉吗？真的很痛苦。
Again, like there's a part of me that wants to say like, you're dumb, even though I understand that they have like mental problem, right? It's like. How little research did you do before doing something like this, right? You paid $10,000 and you had a life-changing surgery without looking before at like what the consequences would be. Like, did you only listen to the doctor who promised you that everything would be perfect? Yeah, I don't know.
我的天哪！有生以来打出了一个比手术还做的微笑的微笑唇。我的天哪，太微笑了，好好看啊！
And it gets really dystopian here because in China, there's this app called Xingyang, which lets you buy plastic surgery procedures directly at the comfort of your own home. It's essentially a marketplace for beauty procedures that offer convenience and ease of access. You open the app and you'll see a bunch of different offers that you can buy. Like, people are looking for the best deals out here. And it gets pretty messed up because the app offers these microloans for those who can't afford the surgery but still want to get it. You pretty much finance your new face and give them monthly payments, which can ultimately just end you up in debt. And you can see that they even have discounts, coupons, and limited deals like 4-in-1 package, buy one get one free, 50% off hyaluronic acid fillers, baby face packages, all to lure people in by feeding off their insecurities. Yo guys, listen, nose jobs are on clearance sale right now. We gotta book a flight to China immediately, okay? I can use my refer a friend code too, so guys, we won't be chopped anymore. There's so many procedures you can get, and there's also these reviews that make it seem legit, but a lot of them could just be unofficial beauty clinics that may or may not have a license. I mean, take a look at this package. I don't know about you guys, but M lips plus thick lips, you can enjoy an additional 95% discount for girlfriend gifts. Black Friday is just overrated. And on the app, there's also this face scanner that pretty much nitpicks and tells you everything that's wrong with your face and what procedures you need to look beautiful again. So if we go ahead and try the face scanner, you'll see how chopped they think I am. Why does it look like I already have smiling lips? This is a whole detailed report on my face. My wrinkles are heavy and my face is long.
Absolute dystopia is all I can say.
My pupil distance is narrow and the double eyelids will make the eyes look divine and aura. Long chin. Man, what's up with the long? Your face is a melon face. Yeah, I think I'll pass on this one. I'm not trying to look like Lil Teacher. Now, the new system is designed to be fast, easy, and convenient. You don't need to think too hard or too long, and you don't need to go to a clinic to book an appointment. Take a look at this case.
Plastic surgery really shouldn't be so casual, like seriously. In no world should it be so casual.
Where a patient, referred to as baby, got M-shaped lips. Before the surgery, she said that her lips were thin, no cupid's bow, upper lip thick in the middle, but thin on the sides, corners of mouth straight. I'm reading this and I'm like, yeah, that sounds pretty normal to me. But in her mind, normal ain't gonna cut it, sis. So she gets the surgery and they give her the full M shape, 2 peaks, and lifted corners. And as you can see, it don't look that natural at all. Like, it's giving something is off, but I can't explain it. Now, there's someone people love bringing up in this conversation about smiling lips, and that is Angelababy. She is super popular in China, like she's an actress and a model, and she naturally has these smiling lips. But a lot of netizens suspect that she enhanced it because, I mean, if you look at the old and current photos, they look pretty different. Now, there's this one scene in the C-drama Skyscraper where she's supposed to be crying, but her face was smiling, so it gave it like a really weird and awkward look on.
Again, like, so many celebrities have literally destroyed their acting abilities with this. Like, it's pretty insane. I'm a big fan of, what's her name? She was in The Menu, she was in Anya Taylor-Joy. Yeah. She was so good, like, seriously, one of, like, probably my new favorite actress from recent movie that I watched. You know, she was in a lot of great stuff. But yeah, she did the whole thing with, like, you know, the crazy like facial surgery stuff, and since then, yeah, like, you know, our facial acting has become like very frozen, basically, is the best way to put it. I guess she's still a good actress in some way, but at the same time, you know, your face is ultra important, and now she barely can act. Well, in a good way, I guess. I mean, seriously, like The Menu, Queen's Gambit, The Witch, Furiosa, so much good stuff, and yet, yeah, now she looks very messed up, I guess, in terms of acting. It's sad.
On camera. And people were like, is she crying or smiling? And there's even this other scene where she's literally being whipped and trying to look in pain as an actor would, right? But her lips are still slightly smiling. Netizens started calling it scary, uncanny, two-faced smile. I mean, I can see where they're coming from because when you smile, your whole face smiles, right? It's not just your lips. Your eyes, your cheeks, everything, right? But when it's just your mouth and your eyes look dead serious, I'm sorry for staring. At the end of the day, beauty is subjective. Like, what might look perfect to one person might look completely unnatural to someone else. And the truth is, while M-shaped lips or the smiling lips can look good on somebody when it's like tailored to their face,
or when it's fucking natural,
the risks are just too insane. If you have to cut muscles in your face just to look slightly more approachable, maybe the lips aren't the problem at all. If anything, you better hide your lips, because I'm coming for them.
Yeah, I mean, this is a video about China, but again, every country has probably their own beauty standard and weird culture of plastic surgery, right? Everybody knows if you go to Brazil, you can get different countries have like very specific things like that, right? Like I know in Asia, there's a lot of like whitening of the skin plastic surgery, like in India, for example. That's the thing, you know, it's all, you know, I love the idea of plastic surgery for like very, you know, obvious, like birth defect is the way I can put it, right? Like really something bad that you can't really deal with. But, you know, like plastic surgery like this, that's almost trying to change your character design, right? Like you're moving sliders in the character designer. Yeah, it's too much. I think it's too much. Like for me, again, it's like less about how you look. I mean, even if you end up looking terrible from the plastic surgery, whatever, but I just can't imagine like all the health complication and, you know, how bad your face must feel too. Yeah, that must be bad. Huh? That must be bad. Anyway, really messed up, but it's the world we live in. You know, crazy stuff. Seriously. Alright, next we have Why Listen to Liszt. Man, is he your favorite artist, Clément? Every time you share videos about him, by Inside the Score. Okay, I mean, because he has good music. That's my answer. We can skip the video. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.
Whereas the classical era of music was characterized by elegance, discipline, and structure, the Romantic era in music was a time of great diversity, innovation, and passion. Out of this era came some of the most accomplished and daring composers that ever lived. Chopin, Schubert, Wagner, and Brahms were just some in this enormous list.
I'm so uncultured, I don't really know those names.
Of geniuses. But where did Franz Liszt fit into this picture? He was one of the greatest innovators since Beethoven, and if there were one composer that understood the sheer expansiveness of Romanticism, it was Liszt. He was a man of extreme contrasts, something that is well reflected in his music. We hear moments of the most violent, diabolical outbursts, and some of the most heartbreaking, vulnerable cries. But with that, we also hear the most grandiose, victorious, and heroic melodies. When listening to Liszt, we can hear echoes of the great composers of the past, but with that, we also hear expansive forms and harmonies that usher in the next century of composers. That is why you need to listen to Franz Liszt.
We're getting his backstory. I guess we've seen quite a bit of it in different videos, you know. Well, we've seen more like specific incidents of his life, right? Little arc. So I guess we haven't seen a full biography.
Franz Liszt was born on October the 22nd, 1811, in Reiding, Hungary. His father, Adam Liszt, was an amateur musician and quickly realized Franz's talent. Inside their home, Adam would often show his son the structured music of Beethoven, Mozart, and Haydn. When the young Liszt heard them, he would be ecstatic and try to improvise on their music. However, Franz also grew up with another type of music, this kind not introduced by his father. This was the free-flowing, sometimes vulgar, gypsy music that Franz could hear right outside his house. These contrasting styles, classical and gypsy, played a huge influence on Liszt. You often hear it in his compositions, complex, passionate passages interwoven with vulgar, rhapsodic tunes, like in his third funeral ode.
I need an example of what a vulgar, I can say it, tune is like.
At the age of 9, Franz gave his first concert as a pianist, and it was astounding. Hungarian magnates who attended the concert saw the talent in the young Liszt and made an investment in him by paying for the next 6 years of his education. But Adam, his father, would soon find out that Hungary could not give Liszt the knowledge and attention he needed, and so he made a bold decision to move to Vienna in 1821. This move would prove to be a great success. Vienna was the home to one of the greatest music teachers of the time, Carl Czerny. Czerny saw Liszt on one hand as a careless, sickly child, but he also saw great potential in Liszt and decided to dedicate almost every night to teaching him. Czerny meticulously fixed Liszt's technical problems and created a firm foundation of technique. But perhaps most importantly, Czerny also established a huge respect in Liszt for the music of Beethoven. Czerny was himself a student of Beethoven, and Beethoven would become one of Liszt's greatest inspirations for the rest of his life. While people recognized that Liszt was a superb pianist, it was around this time that Adam noticed a talent in Liszt's ability to compose music. And so he found one of the greatest composition teachers in Vienna. This was the 71-year-old Antonio Salieri, who was made famous by common folklore as the rival of Mozart. Adam Liszt saw his son...
I still haven't seen that movie, Amadeus, but I know it's a doomed rivalry. I need to watch it.
Success in Vienna, but he wanted even more, and so he took a leap of faith in moving to Paris. Paris did bring them greater success, but after 3 years of continuous touring, both father and son were exhausted. And that's when tragedy hit. Adam became suddenly ill and passed away. Franz lost his mentor and his father, and this event would plunge him into a period of deep sorrow. Franz Liszt, shocked by the death of his father, composed a funeral march, a piece that laments over his father, but also over his career as a prodigy, which he felt had been brutally crushed by fate. With no income, Franz reluctantly became a piano teacher. His love for music started to fade soon after, and it was only because of his mother that he would give music another chance. These were some of the darkest moments in Liszt's life, and we can hear this dark energy in many of his compositions, like this passage from his piano concerto.
Darkness and despair.
However, Liszt's life would soon take a great turn due to 3 colossal events. The first event exploded in July of 1830, when the French July Revolution sprang into full force. Surprisingly, this brought Liszt out of his depression and inspired him to sketch a revolutionary symphony, which wouldn't be finished until almost 2 decades later. The second big event...
Which is interesting because 2 decades later, the 48 revolution just happened, not just in France, but also, Vienna had one. Most of the European country had one.
And in his life would come some months later in the form of a fantastical symphony. Liszt heard Berlioz's Symphonie Fantastique in concert, and this climactic, diabolical, and passionate symphony would forge an indissoluble bond with Liszt. The third big event came soon after, when Liszt attended a charity concert by Niccolò Paganini. Paganini's virtuosic style of playing would resonate with Liszt so deeply that Liszt made a decision to become the Paganini on the piano, a virtuoso the likes of which the world had never seen.
It's kind of nice how he's able to, he doesn't seem too proud to really fully embrace his inspiration by other people, right? To the point of saying something like that. Rather than saying, it's all me and my own genius. He's really getting inspired by not only people from the past, but from his own time. That's a pretty awesome thing. We've touched on La Campanella before, yeah? And all this was amazing.
In the past decade, Liszt had also picked up another interest: literature. He was fascinated by writers like Byron and Goethe, and there was another writer who was just as fascinated with Liszt as he was with literature: Marie d'Agoult. From 1835 to 1838, they traveled to Switzerland and Italy, and they fell in love and had 3 children. Daniel, Blondine, and Cosima. But this wasn't just a love for traveling. These were, as Liszt called them, the years of pilgrimage. It's here where Liszt's passion for composing blew up. With the combination of his accumulated literary knowledge, the beautiful scenery of Switzerland, and the legendary scenes of Italy, Liszt composed 2 suites of music that had a new level of innovation and complexity. The first suite was based on a year in Switzerland, and the second suite was based on a year in Italy. Each suite is filled with movements inspired by the buildings, places, works of art, and even moods that he encountered on his travels. What we can notice in this music is its sheer innovation and creativity. Liszt started to experiment with unusual dissonances and odd textures. Take this piece, his Après une lecture de Dante, Fantasia Quasi Sonata. That's movement 7 from Suite 2. The whole piece built off of tritones and a chromatic descent. From its stark, lamenting introduction to its tempestuous cascade of chords, taking us through scenes of the growling souls in hell, all the way to its earth-shattering climax, depicting victorious choruses represented with barrages of octaves. He brought the piano to its absolute limit. But the world was ever-changing, and Liszt wanted to create music more innovative than anything he had ever written before. It was Liszt himself who said, "New wine demands new bottles. Out with the old forms, in with the new." In a flurry of inspiration came the Faust Symphony. Decades ago, Berlioz had introduced Liszt to Goethe's famous play, Faust. This play greatly intrigued Liszt, and the Faust Symphony ditched the old 4-movement form of,
I think Faust is like a deal with the demon, basically.
The classical symphony, and he instead captures the psychological and physical characteristics of each of the main characters in Goethe's story, Faust, Gretchen, and Mephistopheles. Each movement focuses on one of these characters. Liszt also extensively develops a technique that Beethoven started: thematic transformation, the technique of using a theme and transforming it in all kinds of different ways, showing off the sheer potential of a raw idea. The symphony starts with this upwards arpeggio theme, which is essentially a 12-tone row, well before 12-tone music was even conceived of.
Okay.
And it will return in all kinds of transformations and disguises, like here, or here, or here.
Wow.
Many of these transformations are subtle, sometimes almost...
Now that really sounds right of its time, yeah. Some of the other music does feel like classical music, right? But this feels like the kind of soundtrack I've definitely heard in like Star Wars or Legend of the Galactic Heroes or something.
Most unrecognizable from the original theme, but it shows just how far Liszt could develop and run with a single idea. But this symphony could not fulfill Liszt's desire for new forms. Liszt's composing output was about to enter an even higher level of innovation. This was the invention of the symphonic poem. Since the premiere of Symphonie Fantastique, Liszt had always tried to expand on what Berlioz created. A symphonic poem was an orchestral work that was used to capture or evoke the poetic feelings of different paintings, poems, and landscapes. With the symphonic poem, Liszt finally brought his old sketches of ideas to life. Take, for example, the Héroïde funèbre symphonic poem, which was inspired by the men that died fighting in the July Revolution 20 years ago. The piece balances symphonic elements of traditional musical development with programmatic elements or storytelling elements, which seem to describe the battle musically, along with a funeral march for its casualties.
I'm definitely really into this part of his career, yeah. Because it feels like movie soundtrack music, and I'm sure some of it has been used, yeah, but it's definitely very palatable to me, I guess.
Perhaps today, Liszt's reputation lies in his virtuosic years, the years of 1838 to 1847. His first concerts were extremely controversial. The media made fun of him for his dramatic gestures and over-the-top improvisations. When Liszt performed his highly virtuosic transcriptions and compositions in Paris, it wasn't exactly well received. The critics were especially hard on the growing virtuoso, and they refused to publish any of his piano works. It would take several months for the audience to adapt to Liszt. In the modern day, solo recitals can fill concert halls regularly, and they can be an extremely enjoyable way of listening to music. But the factors that make a solo recital so enjoyable, the assortment of different pieces, the memorization of the music, and the solo pianist posing as superstar, all of these characteristics of a solo recital can be traced back to Liszt. It was Liszt, for example, who had the piano positioned side on to the audience with the lid open so that they could see his hands, face, and instrument all in one. This positioning is now conventional worldwide thanks to Liszt. Without Liszt, who knows if the solo recital as we know it today would even exist? Anyway, Liszt's fame had exploded by 1842, and people were obsessed with his playing style, his looks, and even his dramatic gestures that the media made fun of all those years prior. He played with such passion
Media being banned at the time. Nothing new.
And fury that the famous German writer Heinrich Heine came up with a term for all the madness that would occur when Liszt performed: Lisztomania. When Liszt played, some people would faint and others would trample each other just to get his handkerchiefs and dead cigars. You could almost argue that Liszt was a precursor for
Celebrity culture has always been a thing. Literally always been a thing.
Elvis mania or Beatlemania. Liszt's composing style also developed. His piano music inherited a sort of symphonic tone. By the end of 1847, Liszt had performed over 1,000 concerts and toured most of Europe. But Liszt shocked the world by suddenly ending his career as a virtuoso. Liszt and his wife had separated. Afterwards, he started a relationship with Princess Caroline von Sayn-Wittgenstein. It was Caroline who convinced Liszt to stop his life as a virtuoso and to focus on composition.
Oh, okay.
Liszt was no stranger to tragedy. Critics scorned him, some mocking.
But those pieces are so creepy, this is only blind noise. No more healthy thoughts, everything is confused, one cannot see any clear harmonies. An invitation to hissing and stomping, harmonies, triangle, concerto. An invitation to hissing and stomping. Anyone who has heard it and find it beautiful is beyond help. Opinion being divided, as always been saying. That's for sure, that's for sure. I mean, who knows? Maybe in 100 years people will look back on this early era of AI music and say that, you know, we all misunderstood it and it was actually a masterpiece, right? I guess people of this time are just stupid and, you know, we should all have been enjoying AI music.
Of course, the loss of many friends hurt Liszt, but even more than that would be the loss of his loved ones and his children. Liszt never got over the death of his father, and the loss of his children brought Liszt into another deep depression.
All his children died.
Death, being such a prominent theme in Liszt's life, would creep on him in one final epilogue. Unable to handle the burdens of life, Liszt retreated to a monastery for a quieter, more religious ending. He took one last year of pilgrimage, this time alone and isolated. Liszt's compositional style changed dramatically with one final burst of creativity. The late Liszt works were largely religious, often containing elements of the prominence of death and the afterlife. These late works would also be his most innovative. His Legend No. 1, depicting St. Francis of Assisi preaching to the birds, formed the bedrock of Impressionist music, with its cascade of arpeggios representing birds happily chirping, while his macabre Bagatelle sans tonalité created a new path for expressionists of the 20th century. But his long-awaited death finally came on July 31st of 1886, and he was buried in Bayreuth in Germany. As one of the 20th century's most accomplished pianists, Claudio Arrau later stated, Liszt's most important and enduring works are born of his riveting imagination, his complete technique, and foresight of the direction in which the language of music might evolve gradually.
ahead of his
Do you
time, no?
struggle with the essential core skills of music? I'm talking about sight reading, writing, and ear training. Many people have strong musical ambitions, but have never had the opportunity to develop these skills. Without them, you are missing so much of what music has to offer, and you're holding yourself back from real development. I want to introduce you to the musicality.
Yeah, okay, I'll pause here then. Okay, well, it was kind of nice to see, you know, the story of his life, I guess. There's no doubt that for many musicians, it's sad to say, right? And I think it's not always the case, but for a lot of musicians, their best work come in their darkest hour, right? Be it from personal love, loss, or many other things of the kind. You know, for a lot of musicians, yeah, the darkest hour, you know, either will give birth to pretty incredible dark and sad music, or on the other hand, once they pull themselves out, it will give birth to hopeful music and reflective music. You know, it's definitely how it often goes. So yeah, I feel like you kind of need a life like this to end up making such amazing music. And yeah, again, I really liked some of the more movie soundtrack style music that we've heard in this one. I think they were pretty awesome. I'd love to hear the full version, yeah. I'm sure they've been used in movies or shows or even games maybe. Great stuff. I really like Liszt. Great stuff, really good video. Okay. I can't post in my own chat. Thanks YouTube. So yeah, great one. Amazing video. We'll see, I can't really comment on, you know, how good it is in comparison to the others because I still haven't really listened to much classical music and, you know, what I can name Beethoven, even here I haven't really, you know, listened to too much of his stuff or anything, so I can't comment much. Okay. Next we have Filipino nurses highly praised in the UK. Okay. By In The Know.
English broadcaster, journalist, writer, and television personality Piers Morgan on Tuesday thanked Filipino nurses.
Isn't this guy a big grifter?
Serving the United Kingdom's National Health Service. On the ITV breakfast program Good Morning Britain, British TV personality Piers Morgan gave a shout-out, mentioning on air the names of some Filipino nurses and the hospitals they work for. Quote,
we watched a video once, right, where it said that the biggest export of the Philippines might be the nurses, as they cover like an insane amount of like percentage of nurses in the world, right?
Quote,
in the US too.
Amazing number of Filipinos working on NHS, unsung heroes, but I just want to give them a shout out, helping everybody right now, Morgan said. We forget about this extraordinary workforce that comes from all around the world to help the NHS, he added. Morgan also acknowledged the contributions of immigrants in Britain who are saving people's lives and quote-unquote, doing an amazing job. Similarly, in a tweet, Piers Morgan said, and we quote, "It's worth bearing in mind when we talk about immigrants in this country. These are the immigrants currently saving people's lives, coming here and actually enriching our country and doing an amazing job."
A lovely Filipino lady who works for me, Corrie, and she was out with her friends on Zoom yesterday talking to them. And she said all of them are in the NHS. I didn't realise. All her friends in the NHS. And I said, what do they all do? And she sent me this list. I'm just going to say them because they're all, we forget about this extraordinary workforce that comes from all around the world to help the NHS.
I think we particularly value them right now.
And just want to give them a little
it's just COVID, right?
Erin Aquino, nurse manager at Guy's Hospital and Nightingale Hospital. Aisha Nuesa, who's a senior
at the
staff
Nightingale
nurse.
Hospital. That's the emergency hospital that's just opened at the ExoticBankai.
Well,
Florence Nightingale, right?
Aisha Noesa, who's Senior Staff Nurse of the Intensive Care Unit at Guy's and St Thomas's Hospital. So that's where Boris Johnson is. Cherifa Mamuyak and Venus Daquiz, nurses of the Infectious Diseases team at Northwick Park Hospital. Princess Short, who's a nurse at St Mary's Hospital. Louis Nuisa, who's a nurse at Queen Alexandra Hospital in Portsmouth. And the whole team at Cheston Allergy Department at St Mary's Hospital. Amazing number of Filipinos work in our NHS and unsung heroes, like so many, but I just want to give them a shout out. One helping everybody right now, but I just have a friend going through this with her mum, and just outstanding care.
We are reliant on their care. They're doing it absolutely fantastic.
And worth bearing in mind when we talk about immigrants in this country, isn't it?
They prop up the health service.
You know, these are the immigrants currently saving people's lives.
Yes.
Coming here and actually enriching our country and doing an amazing job. So thank you to all the Filipinos who are here.
Of course, they have to bring it around to talking about immigration, right?
Immigrant working in NHS currently.
Can't be a simple,
I hope at the end of this we have perhaps a different sentiment,
positive
a different
thing.
feeling.
It has to go into the political
what
debate.
immigration has done for this country.
Classic news.
At this point, we would like to thank Good Morning Britain, Piers Morgan, and InTheKnowPH.com. You can check out their link.
Okay, I don't really know what to say. Again, awesome, Filipino nurse. I don't really know why the Philippines is so good at producing nurse, and why, there's so many, well, I guess I understand why there's so many abroad, because they make more money to send back home, but it's really interesting, yeah? Like, one country like that just producing the most nurse, and great nurse, I guess, yeah? Yeah. So yeah, great, what I can say. I don't really know what to say beyond that. Well, this was 6 years ago. Was COVID 6 years ago? I guess it was. Yeah, that's crazy, now that I think about it. And now we have like freaking antivirus or whatever. What a world we live in. Alright. Next video, we have the Master of Maneuver Warfare, Turenne, campaign of 1674, by History March. I have no idea about any of this.
It is late autumn 1674, and in the great halls of the Holy Roman Empire, the high commands of the Emperor Leopold I and Elector Frederick William of Brandenburg have made a fateful decision. Following the despoliation of the Palatinate by the forces of the French King Louis XIV, and with French gains in the war against the Dutch Republic increasing on the victory of the Great Conde at Senef the previous August, the Imperial Alliance has decided that France itself will be subject to invasion, and the war taken to the very soil of the Sun King.
Yeah, I don't really know anything about this period of history.
To this end, a huge army under Alexander de Bournonville, Count of Hénin-Littard, moves like a juggernaut and occupies the neutral city of Strasbourg, using it as a bridgehead to cross the Rhine and move into French territory. To oppose this force, Louis can only call on his stalwart, Henri de la Tour d'Auvergne, known to all simply as Turenne, and a relatively paltry 30,000 French soldiers. Turenne's difficult cause is made exponentially more acute by the news that a second Brandenburger army under the Grand Elector himself is en route to link up with Bournonville, a development that would render almost any set peace battle between the two sides a foregone conclusion. With the Emperor's company still pouring over the Rhine, Turenne moves out to save France from what is almost certain to be a ruinous onslaught.
Alright then.
The French state of Louis XIV is a wonder of the early modern age. Not only does it lead Europe in science, art, and philosophy, the king heads the first regular army in a millennium that approaches those of the ancient Caesars in size and capability. While the medieval armies of the French kings had numbered barely over 10,000 men during peacetime and increased by 1 or 2-fold by the hiring of mercenaries or the drafting of high nobility and their retainers.
I always say, but yeah, it is crazy to think during the time of the 100-Year War and all that. Yeah, I mean, army size were tiny compared to what we tend to think of an army. Yeah, they were tiny, like just a few thousands or something. And it's not like, it was only like in more modern day that they had massive army, Napoleonic Wars or World War I and II. Back in the day, there was massive army too. I mean, at the time of Alexander, at the time of the Roman Empire, they had massive army. But yeah, at some point in medieval time, armies became like tiny.
Louis had built on the considerable advancements of his namesake father, and now with his conflict against the Dutch and the Empire raging all around his borders, his army numbers close to 300,000 men, an astronomical force. Yet only a fraction of these are available to Turenne in the declining months of 1674. The main French field army is to the north with Conde, mopping up in the aftermath of Senef, and the rest are occupied with operations against the still dangerous Spanish in the shadow of the Pyrenees to the south. Turenne looks at his situation while Bournonville musters to reduce the Rhineland, and he realizes that to sit in a defensive posture is to invite his already fragile force to melt away due to desertion and disease over the debilitating winter. The Frenchman thus decides that élan will be the order of the day, and he sets out to confront his enemies and prevent their union.
Just take him from behind.
With Bournonville's main force at Ansheim, Turenne arrives at Molsheim
Back to the
on the
river.
3rd of October, having marched his men through the night. This position has the effect of disrupting Bournonville's contact with his main headquarters at Strasbourg, but Turenne is not finished yet. The next day, the 4th of October, he marches out from Molsheim to confront the Imperials. Bournonville is confident enough in his superiority to march and meet the French, but he deploys in a defensive posture, reasonably gauging that the cold and precipitous conditions will favor the stationary host. When Turenne surveys the imperial host, he notes that its center is formed around the village of Ansheim itself.
Yeah, that's a weird setup. Like, it looks easy to attack just one side.
With woods on both the right and left flanks. The woods to Bournonville's right are far enough away by the river Ile to be of little disturbance, but the woods on the imperial left will be vital if Turenne is to break the enemy center and take control of the village. As such, he orders his lines to focus on an attack there at the outset. Both armies deploy in the front and reserve lines, with cavalry on the wings. The influence of the great Swedish king, General Gustavus Adolphus, is still seen 4 decades on from his death in Turenne's deployment of infantry support units placed between his cavalry squadrons. Interestingly, the French army also contains a British contingent, 4 regiments in total, who were a holdover from the earlier official English involvement in the war. Though it is a secret, Charles II has promised Louis of France that he will eventually return England to the Catholic fold when the time is correct. In the meantime, Louis will give him much needed funding in return for his clandestine troops. For the initial attack on the wood, Turenne elects to utilize infantry and a dragoon unit to be sent forth to the trees. 8 battalions of foot plus the mounted detachment. They move quickly toward the thicket. The artillery duel between the 8 French artillery pieces in their front line against the Imperial guns, churning up clots of earth amidst the companies and filling the air with a quaking roar.
That's the way to put it.
There is no movement from the woods. The French soldiers hurrying toward the tree line begin to dream that Bournonville has been overwhelmed by Turenne's sudden appearance after the forced march and somehow overlooked the strategic point. They come within the last 100 yards and are allowed one more moment of exquisite optimism before a sharp snap emits from the woods. And the hidden Imperial force opens up and cuts down the front line of French marauders.
Shit.
Bournonville has indeed recognized the importance of the woods, and so they have been solidly reinforced with 8 guns, as well as half a dozen battalions of infantry, who are now firing on the floundering Frenchmen. The dragoons attempt to charge, but it comes to naught save death and injury. And even though the French officers quickly bring their men to order and fire in volleys, the hidden enemy within the woods has an open target on Turenne's men in the open. The French infantry and the dragoons.
I actually wonder, like in this part of the story with the line musket fire, right? How often the strategy of, you know, placing your lines somewhat in woods for covers was used, and forcing, you know, the other side to like march in the open toward you. In the Napoleonic Wars, I don't think it happened much, but it seems like a good strategy, even though I guess the trees will break the formation a little, but I don't know. The protection seems worth it.
Try again, but the woods are too well defended. Withdrawal is the only option, save suicidal frontal attack. It is a dispiriting setback, but Turenne knows that he must have the woods if he is to have the battle, and so he draws companies from the reserve. 2 of the regiments from the reinforcements are of the British Brigade, and they number amongst their officers one John Churchill, the future Duke of Marlborough, and a man pivotal to British and European history.
He's not related to Winston, is he?
In spite of Churchill's presence amidst his compatriots, the second operation to seize the woods is no more successful than the first, and the 2 sides settle into a grim back and forth of muskets and small artillery fire. The October cold has not abated with the onset of afternoon, and the rain has continued to fall, hampering the ability of both sides to bring their main guns to bear in the contest. Turenne ratchets up the pressure on the units in the woods by sending a cavalry detachment around to attempt an envelopment from the far side of the tree line. But to the commander Vorbrum's dismay, they discover that Bournonville has placed no fewer than 8 battalions behind the main force in reserve.
Yes, so many troops.
And these easily deal with the onrushing cavalrymen, stinging musket volleys cutting riders down from every direction.
If this side isn't working, try the other side.
Watching the proceedings with satisfaction, decides that the moment has come for action. And with his French opponent stretched thin on his lines, and with companies out of position, he orders an advance.
Actually, this looks pretty good. Again, just sweep them from the side. And now they're moving out of position. It's pretty good.
The attack is quick and strong enough that the Imperial mounted right quickly push back and scatter their opposite numbers on the French side. But though outnumbered, the French center and left wing reserve hold, and the soft ground soon turns to morass for the Imperial infantry and their rear units. They cannot bring their advantage to bear, and the French guns now have the advantage of range. They cut deep holes in the Imperial lines, and when the offensive has juddered to a certain halt, a counterattack begins. The French left having regrouped, and the Imperial lines are pushed back to their initial positions. Simultaneously, the focus on the main action has taken Imperial attention from the woods, and the combined French and British forces are at last able to cut through the defenses and take the position. The French advance across the entire field, but they are finding the same problems of terrain the Imperials suffered during their offensive.
Right.
The French guns cannot be brought forward, and the conditions are worsening as the light starts to fade. Vauban regulates his company and squadrons, and then with a flourish of trumpets that sounds flattened in falling mist, a major charge is mounted over the sodden ground toward Ansheim itself. Bournonville's units steel themselves, and the officers and commanders beat men into line as the riders encroach out of the gloom. Pistol and musket flash like lightning strikes out of the grey, and the sabres and bayonets are deployed in a struggle that results in terrible wounds. Grenadiers to the fore in both sides lock weapons, but the Imperial guns are now in the advantage, and the French are forced back when the Imperials hold their line.
That is trenches.
The French guns reach a position of range, and they begin to bombard the enemy line while the dusk finally settles in for the night.
Stalemate.
Bournonville has seen enough, and he begins an organized withdrawal.
Really?
Turenne, eventually seeing any gains will have to go unpursued in the dark, and that more attacks will only lead to further losses, begins to do the same. Only a holding force of French cavalry is left on the field, and that too departs into the night.
Very nice.
The French call the Battle of Ansheim a great victory, but the fact is that Bournonville and the Great Elector can now unite and still stand ready to invade France again when the new campaign...
I mean, it bought time, you know. I don't know if I would call it a great victory, but it bought time at least. You know, just 30 minutes advance.
Campaign season begins in the spring. Thus, Turenne elects to do what no one expects, and many believe to be impossible.
Winter attack.
At his new headquarters in Dietwiller, he prepares for a winter offensive.
Oh boy.
From Louis comes royal assent, and from the army of Conde, the king sends 20 infantry battalions and 24 cavalry squadrons to aid in the effort.
Good.
The man who has virtually invented the role of Minister for War, Francois-Michel Letellier, the Marquis of Louvois, begins the organization of the massive amount of food, fodder and clothes for the men who will fight the winter battles. Turenne also receives around 6,000 men under the command of the Marquis of Créqui, but he dismisses them within 7 days, for they are ill-disciplined, old-style units raised by entitled nobles, and the French army is now a place for real fighting men, professional soldiers in all but...
It's interesting because, like, 100 years later, it will have gone back to the army being, you know, kind of like outdated and very much under the system of the nobles, and then the revolution happens, right? And then once again, the army is back to being, you know, moving forward, advancing technology, strategy, and all that. It's interesting. Only for them to, again, be very behind by the time of, well, the Franco-Prussian War and then World War I, right? It's interesting.
Name.
Constant.
As this
evolution, rest on your laurel. Evolution, rest on your laurel.
Snow starts to fall, and Turenne waits for Bournonville and the Elector to let down their guards. Louis puts the royal power behind an even greater effort to draw supplies from the nearby provinces to keep the army in the field. Finally, after a month of waiting in freezing conditions, Bournonville and Frederick William take their armies out of the field and into Colmar and Celestat to see out the season. It is the moment Turenne has been waiting for. He makes a show of going into winter quarters himself, placing token garrisons in towns like Saverne, Haguenau, Rambervillers, and...
Haguenau? Isn't that a pretty important place in World War II?
Remiremont. But instead of staying in camp, he sets out with his strongest men and animals 2 weeks before Christmas. It is a bold move. To elude spies and scouts, he leads his men through a snowstorm and heads for the Vosges Mountains. He breaks the army into smaller detachments to take different routes, and over the next fortnight they battle against the cold to reach Alsace. Finally, they emerge from the beach and spruce-lined trails to the shock of the townspeople of Belfort as they ready themselves for the holy season of Christ's birth.
I mean, they're probably thinking, shit, Christmas is ruined. People are gonna die. It's
the
not a good sign.
Imperial army led by Bournonville is spread out across Alsace, thinking they have the region secured. But Turenne catches them off guard.
Perfect.
On December 29th, he crosses the Ila River and launches a surprise attack near the town of Mulhouse, a strategic spot close to the Rhine River. Bournonville did not expect the French to show up in the middle of winter. The scattered Imperials scrambled, but could not effectively coordinate a defense. Turenne's winter maneuver was risky, but it paid off. Led by Montauban, the French cavalry strikes hard and fast, hitting the Imperial left held by Hermann of Baden-Baden. The Imperials had managed to take a defensive position, with their left resting on the forest and their right anchored near the town. But the French frontal assault is a feint. The real pressure is yet to come. Turenne had secretly reinforced his right wing with a large concentration of troops, including elite cavalry and fresh infantry. These reinforcements were concealed during the initial approach and brought up quickly to swing around the Imperial left. The French right, now heavily bolstered, threatened to outflank the Imperial left. The shock of this sudden mass of fresh French troops caused the collapse of Hermann's left wing.
Just like
Once
that.
the left gave way, the rest of the Imperial line became exposed and started to fall back in disorder. Hermann attempted to organize a retreat, but the French cavalry, especially those from the reinforced right wing, pressed hard and turned the withdrawal into a rout. Although not a major pitched battle, Mulhouse was an important, sharp action that gave the French control over Alsace. Turenne's surprise winter campaign had arguably flipped the momentum in France's favor and showed just how brilliant and daring the French commander could be. Turenne orders his 30,000 men to proceed to Colmar. By now, Bournonville and the Great Elector, who had arrived in the wake of Arnsheim, had realized the staggering audacity of their opponent's maneuver, and they rushed to take their unconditioned men from their billets and back into the field. On the 5th of January, on a field near the road between Colmar and Turkheim, a manic and wild-eyed army...
I guess they don't want to be besieged, yeah. Yeah, they don't actually want to be besieged.
A Frenchman comes face to face once more with the bemused and agitated army of the Holy Roman Empire, along with their Brandenburger allies.
Burger.
French scouts reconnoiter the Imperial positions in the dark and see that it stretches almost the entire length between the two towns, with the Imperial right at Turkheim and the left at Colmar. This left flank is protected by the Loch, Thur and Iller rivers, while the right is bordered by the Fech, of which a tributary seems to run entirely in front of the...
Yeah, they have to cross the freaking river to get to the other side. I mean, it's maybe not a river, maybe it's more like a stream.
Army's forward position.
That's
when
not
the
great.
weak and late winter sun starts to rise, Turenne can see for himself that the natural boundaries have been augmented by artillery batteries, as well as ramparts and balustrades. Bournonville and Frederick William have done well. Turenne's army is roughly the same strength as that which he commanded at Arnsheim, being in the order of 30,000 men.
What happened to all these reinforcements?
Bournonville's army is still larger, however, anywhere from a couple of thousand greater than Turenne's roster to 50,000 in total.
Well...
Again, taking a defensive posture, they await Turenne's opening moves, which come around 11 o'clock. Marching forward from the center with an emphasis on their right wing, the French make for the Colmar positions. This advance is led by the Comte de Loge, who spreads his men out as far as possible, looking for crossing points over the river to the Imperial positions beyond. The French have some large guns, but most of their heavy ordnance could not be brought through the mountains on the march. Nevertheless, the offensive is sustained to such a degree that Bournonville and Frederick William begin moving troops from the center and the environs of Turkheim to reinforce their left. Once again, this is the action for which Turenne has been waiting.
Okay.
He has secreted himself on his own far left wing, behind a hill in a gorge which led between two spurs of the Vosges Mountains. From there, Turenne leads his concealed force on a wide march around the gorge, emerging at the Fech River on the outskirts of Turkheim. In the meantime, the battle at the center and around Colmar continues with constant exchanges, but the two infantry centers of the armies grapple from a distance, the blizzards of musket balls never extending to a close order clash with bayonets.
I mean, whoever goes into the little stream definitely is at a disadvantage, yeah? So you don't want to.
The Imperials, realizing their mistake in ignoring their right, rush units into Turkheim. 6 guns, 12 battalions and several squadrons of cavalry. But Turenne, despite holding the advantage, decides to pause the assault. The battle settles for a time into a deadlock, with the Turkheim forces awaiting imminent deadly attack, and the main armies in Colmar still battling on in vicious but limited forays. Finally, when it appears that the Imperials will not simply withdraw from the field and spare the necessity of a costly fight,
that's what he was waiting for.
gives the order to advance at 3 o'clock. His cavalry units, having waited with exceeding discipline under the Imperial guns from Turkheim for what seemed like hours, now surge forward like furies unleashed from Tartarus, crossing the freezing river as though it were not there, and firing pistol and swinging saber at the now confounded and rattled enemy. Everything happens in a rush. The Imperial defenders flee Turkheim, and Turenne is able to bring infantry into the village while his cavalry move forward to secure the outer section. But the Imperials launch a counterattack, brimming out of their still intact center and with the regrouped elements of their right wing. For a moment, all hangs in the balance. The Imperials have the opportunity to catch Turenne's attack force and turn them, upending the result of the day and handing the French general a defeat that will open the doors of France to them. They might even come close to capturing or killing Turenne himself, for he is now in the town and caught up in the fighting.
But I understand like way too many reinforcements and weakening their center.
His cavalry commander Foucault has already been killed. The Imperials get within the town once more, and they can feel the hand of Providence at their back, pushing them forward. But they run into a wall of French muskets, fired with a frequency born of interminable drill and deadly accuracy from the same. The bravest men of the front fall, and then the attack pauses, giving the remaining French cavalry their moment to charge forward. The Imperial assault is repulsed, and retreat is the only option. The setting of the sun almost immediately after puts paid to any thoughts of forming another attack.
That's it, okay.
Turenne holds the village, and when the sun rises next morning, he sees that Bournonville and the Great Elector have gone,
just like that,
robbing him of the chance of annihilating their army in its entirety, but leaving thousands of the dead in their wake.
Nice.
Turenne
I mean, it was a pretty simple strategy, but, you know, it worked. Not a decisive battle, once again more of a stop of the advance, but, you know.
Moves on and occupies Colmar, where he finds that the Imperials have left behind 3,000 of the injured in their rush over the Rhine and back to Strasbourg. The Rhineland is French once more, and Turenne, with his veritably insane gamble in crossing mountains during the midst of winter, has saved his nation from certain invasion and ruination. Louis awards him titles and cash rewards, and the Sun King's rule continues in the ascendant over the greatest power in Europe.
Okay.
If you like what you see, consider support.
Well, that was interesting. That was definitely interesting. Yeah. Again, I would say it was like kind of simple, the strategies, but, you know, if it works, it's great, right? That's what it is. That's what it is. Good video. Good little history video. I enjoyed it. I really don't have much context of this whole historical period of like the Roman Empire attacking France or something. Definitely a period of history that I have not touched on outside of this video, I guess. Something I have to learn eventually. A single video like this is always nice, but eventually I need some kind of like chronological order kind of thing about it. Because, we always watch so many like random videos about specific battle of a specific time, but I don't know anything about like the rest of this time period. So, I'm kind of lost, right? Good stuff. When is the 30-year war? I forget. I think it's around there, no? Maybe. Anyway, good one. You know what? One last video for today. We'll watch the baseball one. Yeah, nothing else shared. So, this one. Yeah, this one. Weird facts you didn't know about MLB stadiums by Stark Raving Sports. I don't know anything about MLB stadiums.
Baseball is weird. You might disagree here, but as somebody who's seen over 20 baseball games in his lifetime, I'm pretty much an expert. One of the weirdest things about baseball, though, is the field. Unlike football, or soccer, or basketball, basically every other sport, really, no two Major League Baseball fields are exactly the same. Besides a few hard rules, 90-foot base paths, 60 feet 6 inches from the mound to home plate, the only limitation for a stadium designer is their imagination. Which is how we nearly got...
I mean, looking at all of this, nothing is like looking very consistent, so what's the imagination? They just make a weird corner?
This is the design for a floating baseball field, which would have stood, or floated, in San Diego's Mission Bay.
Okay.
Now, there have been a lot of proposed ballparks over the years, and even more that have never been built. You'd be hard-pressed, however, to find one as outlandish as this one. It was the 1960s, and baseball was expanding. Americans were moving west, and so were sports teams. By the middle of the decade, rumors were swirling of an MLB team coming to San Diego. To stadium designer Stanley French, this was an opportunity. French was the head architect for a local firm named Boyle Engineering, and he had some pretty out-there ideas. Chief among them was the Mission Bay project, a sports stadium that would host football and baseball games, hold 50,000 fans, and most importantly, sit almost entirely on water. This is just one concept for the floating stadium. It would have been anchored on land by the home plate grandstand, with 2 wings extending into the water, each capable of holding up to 20,000 fans. Sports writer Jack Murphy called it the most daring yet practical concept in stadium building since Houston discovered the goal. These days, you're probably more familiar with the Padres' current home, which is unique in its own way. Petco Park opened its doors in 2004, taking over from its predecessor, Jack Murphy, the stadium this time, not the writer. While Petco Park sits on flat ground instead of water, there's no shortage of other features that make this place one of a kind. Namely, the 4-story warehouse that makes up part of left field. There's nothing else in baseball, or in sports, quite like it. Made in 1909 by architect Henry Lord Gay, the building housed the Western Metal Supply Company, which made materials for wagon makers and blacksmiths. It was a thriving business, but as time went on, the need for wagons and blacksmiths declined, and in 1975, the Western Metal Supply Company shut down for good. The building sat unused until the 2000s, when the Padres, looking for a spot to build their new field, set their sights on San Diego's warehouse district. Rather than bulldoze the old building, though, they had a better idea: build the stadium around it. Today, the Western Metal Supply Company building is the most iconic part of the Padres' home. They've added decks for fans to watch games,
kind of cool to keep the field building,
and seats on the roof of the building itself. Instead of a left field foul pole, the corner of the building has a thin yellow strip. Any balls that hit the southern wall are ruled foul, and any that hit the eastern side are a home run. Interestingly, it took over 10 years for somebody to hit a ball on top of the building. In 2016, Padres slugger Hunter Renfroe crushed the first ever home run to the Western Metal Supply Company roof. Then, in 2017, he did it again, off of Mets ace Jacob deGrom.
Wow.
Since then, only Fernando Tatis Jr. has accomplished the feat, making it one of the rarest events in all of baseball. Of course, Petco Park is far from the only MLB field with its share of quirks. If you look closely enough, you'll find that every ballpark has something that makes it unique. From hidden Japanese gardens, to buried dinosaur bones, to bodies locked in freezers, these are the weirdest, funniest, and most unknown secrets behind your favorite baseball stadiums. National League Edition. If you want more videos digging into the bizarre history of baseball fields, like this video and subscribe to Stark Raving Sports. Let's get into it. We'll head north from San Diego to LA for a visit to Dodger Stadium. Now, this Easter egg is a bit different in that it doesn't lie inside the stadium at all. The story begins in 1956 when Japanese baseball officials reached out to Walter O'Malley to ask if he and his league champion Brooklyn Dodgers would like to tour the country. One of these officials was Sotaro Suzuki, a sports writer and pioneer in the world of Japanese baseball. Suzuki and O'Malley became fast friends and continued their correspondence even after the tour was over. In 1962, Suzuki was invited to attend the grand opening of Dodger Stadium in Los Angeles. Wanting to repay his friend for this honor, Suzuki had an idea. He commissioned the building of a stone toro, a traditional Japanese lantern, which he would gift to the Dodgers. Stone toro are meant as an offering to Buddha and have been used in shrines throughout Japan for centuries. The lantern, which was 8 feet tall and weighed nearly 2 tons, had to be shipped across the Pacific in 6 pieces. Upon its arrival in LA, it was placed in the center of a newly designed garden on the outskirts of Dodger Stadium. Located on a hill next to what is now Parking Lot 6, this was a favorite spot of Walter O'Malley's. From its installation in 1965 to his death in 1979, the Dodgers owner made frequent trips to the garden. In the 80s and 90s, the garden was cared for by Frank Ego, an LA resident and friend of both O'Malley and Sotaro Suzuki. Every weekend, Ego would drive 20 miles from his home to Dodger Stadium to take care of the garden. Frank Ego passed away in 2000, and while he and the lantern were both honored in a 2003 ceremony, the garden, gradually but inevitably, fell into disrepair. By 2023, the only hint that there was anything of note there were online rumors and a fence with a no trespassing sign. Then, in March of 2024, the Dodgers made an announcement. The lantern, which had for so long sat abandoned, ignored, and forgotten, had been moved from the old garden, refurbished, and placed on the top deck of Dodger Stadium. Today, you can find the Toro, a symbol of the link between Japanese and American baseball, in a well-deserved place of honor.
I love it also.
For a somewhat less beloved ballpark icon, let's take a look at Oracle Park, home of the San Francisco Giants. In the year 2000, the Giants moved into the brand new, state-of-the-art Pac Bell Park. This place had everything: a 27-foot tall baseball net, a massive Coca-Cola bottle that also doubles as a slide, $65 pizza. And then there was Rusty, the 14-foot mechanical man who hung on the right field wall, flanked by 4 cannons capable of spraying water up to 100 feet in the air. Now, you might be wondering what the hell I'm talking about. If you go to the stadium now, there are very few, if any, giant metal men to be found. But believe it or not, this was a very real, very weird thing.
That's probably not very popular, yeah.
He was the brainchild of Old Navy, who, in one of the strangest sponsorship deals ever, created Rusty, a robot who would emerge from a shed near the right field foul pole to entertain fans. Made up of 18 movable parts, Rusty could wave to the crowd, swing a fake bat, and even slide into a base. Or at least, he was supposed to. See, it turned out that Rusty was more than just a nickname. In a cruel...
I mean, it's way too big of an animatronic. It's also, like, again, not a 3D one per se. So, yeah. Doesn't look like it would really work.
Twist of fate, a mechanical man was no match for the foggy San Francisco climate. He malfunctioned constantly, with public opinion ranging from stupid to vaguely creepy. While the Giants finished in first, Rusty didn't last through the season. The robot was quickly and unceremoniously removed, never to return.
RIP.
The Colorado Rockies are one of the youngest franchises in the league, having been founded in 1993. After sharing Mile High Stadium with the Denver Broncos their first 2 seasons, the Rockies moved into Coors Field in 1995, where they've stayed ever since. At 5,200 feet above sea level, with a heated infield and a stunning view of the Rocky Mountains, there are plenty of things that make Coors one of the best places to watch a game. And then there's Dinger. Dinger is a purple, polka-dotted triceratops, and the official mascot of the Colorado Rockies.
Okay.
He's fun, loves to play pranks, and is one of the most hated mascots in Major League Baseball.
Oh, wow.
Dinger, seriously? Can you wait for a couple of us to get out? Come on, man. Come on.
I feel sad. He just wants friends. Wow.
He's been called a Times Square sideshow, the Easter Bunny taking a smoke break, Barney after a meth binge. But why? Why do people hate Dinger? Maybe it's his design. Big black eyes, the devil-like horns. Maybe it's his antics, the way he taunts opposing pitchers from behind home plate. Or maybe it's because they don't understand why a team named after a mountain range has a dinosaur for a mascot.
Okay, but I haven't seen much stuff with mascot, but I feel like most of what I've seen is mascot being annoying, doing jokes, and looking goofy. It seems like the same.
Well, I can't explain those first 2, but there is a reason for the third thing. See, back in the 90s, when construction crews were building Coors, they uncovered a small fossil. Upon closer look, scientists determined that this bone belonged to a, quote, horned dinosaur, and thus, Dinger was born. So, there you go.
That's simple.
There is a reason for Dinger to exist. Speaking of mascots that make no sense, why is the D-backs mascot a bobcat? Let me ask that again. Why is the mascot of the Arizona Diamondbacks a bobcat? Somehow, there is also a story behind this guy. D. Baxter the Bobcat, get it, D. Baxter, was chosen thanks to a young boy named Brantley Bell, the son of Arizona second baseman Jay Bell. It was the 6-year-old Brantley who suggested a bobcat as the team's mascot, inspired by the name of Bank One Ballpark, or Bob. Of course, Bank One Ballpark was renamed Chase Field in 2006, so the bobcat thing doesn't make a whole lot of sense anymore. Oh well.
It's a story.
Now,
It's fine.
there are a lot of things I didn't know about these ballparks going into this video, and a lot of things I didn't have time to include. If there's anything you think I missed, leave a comment below.
Doing the YouTuber
Wrigley
thing.
Field is the oldest existing ballpark in the National League, and one of the most famous in baseball history. Several things make Wrigley unique. There's the red brick backstop, the iconic red sign, and yes, the ivy. But you know about that stuff. What I want to talk about today is this. This, my dear friends, is a light. Don't be fooled though, this isn't just any old light. This is one of 6 massive light towers that line Wrigley Field, first added to the friendly confines in the distant year 1988. Why did it take so long for the Cubs to add lights to their field? What made them strike down their ban on night games in the first place? And what does this all have to do with Pearl Harbor? Let me explain.
Okay.
The first night game in MLB history was played in 1935 at Cincinnati's Crosley Field. Over the next decade and change, the rest of the league would install lights at their fields. All of them, except one. See, Cubs owner Philip Wrigley was worried that night games would be a nuisance to the surrounding neighborhood, bringing noise, vandalism, and drunkenness to the area. And if you've been to Chicago, you know how much they hate getting drunk. Now, this ban on night games lasted until the 80s, when the team was sold by Wrigley's grandson.
Well, I don't know how I feel about night baseball. It's great in the minor leagues, but it's someplace else to go in town besides your restaurant, which is a good thing.
You know, how's your mother, by the way?
That's not to say the Cubs didn't try, however. See, in the early 40s, there was a push by Philip Wrigley to install lights, breaking with his previous position. By December of 1940...
I can't even imagine living close to a place like this, though. I mean, I can't imagine. When I used to live in the south of France, I used to live in a small village, but 20 meters away from my house, there was like a river, and on the other side, there was basically like a little campground, I guess. And sometime during summer, they would have like music party, I guess. And you know, it's not common to have air conditioning in France, so absolutely you have to sleep with the window open. But you know, loud music until like 1 or 2 a.m. and all the screaming and all that, it was not great. And again, it was max a few hundred people, right? I can't imagine living next to a stadium like that. I guess if you can close all the windows, maybe it's fine. If you have air conditioning.
Everything was in order. Then tragedy struck. 4,000 miles away from Chicago, the Pearl Harbor Naval Base was hit by the Japanese military in a surprise attack. The next day, the United States declared war on Japan, officially ending World War II. With the US at war, the 165 tons of steel that Wrigley had on hand was suddenly much more valuable. He donated the material to the war effort, delaying night games at Wrigley Field for another 4 decades.
I mean,
American Family Field opened its doors in 2001 as Miller Park. Located near the site of the old Milwaukee County Stadium, there's a plaque in parking lot 1, marking the spot where Hank Aaron's final career home run landed. Within the stadium, though, is a tribute to another Brewers legend, one that's a bit less obvious. If you make your way to section 422, way up behind home plate, you'll find a statue of Bob Uecker, the voice of the Brewers for over 50 years. If you know us at Stark Raving Sports, you know we love Bob Uecker. So what better way to honor a man who lived one of the greatest baseball lives ever? Rest in peace, Ueck. We miss ya. For this next field, we'll stay in the NL Central, Busch Stadium, home of the Cardinals. Opened in 2006, this is actually the third stadium in St. Louis to bear the Busch name. It wasn't just the name that carried over from the old field, though. See, the new Busch, or should I say the new Busch, is located right next to the site of the old new Busch Stadium. The 2 stadium sites are so close, in fact, that the location of the old Busch right field foul pole is in left center of the new park. This posed a challenge. How do you build a new ballpark on top of the old one while games are still being played there? Their solution was to do it in pieces. As the Cardinals played the 2005 season at the old field, construction crews got to work on the first base side of the new stadium. By the fall of 2005, though, a drawback of this plan had become apparent. The Cardinals had won the division and advanced to the NLCS. This was a problem, at least for the builders. Now, with the old park needed for, baseball, they wondered if the new field would be ready in time for the next season. When Busch Stadium 3 opened on opening day 2006, a large part of the left field structure was unfinished. The Cardinals, meanwhile, took care of some unfinished business of their own.
Okay.
So I bet you thought San Diego was the only place that nearly had a floating baseball stadium. Well, you'd be wrong. In 1958, 7 years before the Padres nearly tried it, the city of Pittsburgh considered building a stadium of its own atop the Monongahela River. Sadly, this design was never built. The Pirates moved into Three Rivers Stadium in 1970. then in 2001 to their current home of PNC Park. Who knows whether the floating stadium concept will ever be a reality. But
I mean, I'm sure it's doable, but I don't see how it makes sense, right? Like, it's probably like 10 times more expensive to build something like that than something on land.
Man, wouldn't it be cool to watch the Pirates literally play on top of water? For our next stadium, we're going to cross state lines, where Great American Ballpark sits along the banks of the Ohio River. Opened in 2003, Great American Ballpark, or GAB as I like to call it, is the 7th home of the Cincinnati Reds, Major League Baseball's first and oldest franchise. Given their long history, the Reds have undergone peaks and valleys as a ball club. One of those valleys came in 2015, when they finished last in the NL Central with a meager 64 wins. A low point of this season came on May 15th. With the Reds trailing the Giants 6-2, fans started to notice that something was wrong. Besides what was happening on the field, I mean. Beyond the outfield wall sit 2 giant smokestacks, reminiscent of the ones found on 19th century steamboats. These smokestacks emit flames and fireworks on special occasions, like home runs and Reds wins. This was not one of those times.
Center field, and look at this.
It's kind of burning.
Firemen arriving on the scene. 2 different ladders. They've got it surrounded.
The Reds lost this game, if you were wondering.
Well,
speaking of trash fires, let's take a trip to Miami, where the Marlins call Lone Depot Park home. Formerly known as Marlins Park, Lone Depot Park, which, if you're curious, requires you to spell it like that, is one of the newest stadiums in MLB.
What a name.
Upon its opening in 2012, fans marveled at the park's modern design, retractable roof, and the $2.5 million, 75-foot tall sculpture made up of multicolored flamingos, seagulls, and, of course, marlins. This work of art was controversial. Some called it tacky, while others said it captured the essence of Miami, which, in fairness, could both be true. Its official name was Homer. Fans called it the Marlinator. When the Marlins changed owners in 2018, it was clear that the Marlinators' days were numbered. Sure enough, the sculpture was removed and placed outside of the stadium. It still comes to life every afternoon at 3:05 p.m. in reference to Miami's security code. On the topic of references, let's head over to Citizens Bank Park, home of the Philadelphia Phillies since 2004. In center field, you'll find Ashburn Alley, which features a slew of homages to the team's past. Stone markers in the ground feature the name of every Philly All-Star. A section known as Memory Lane tells the history of the city's Negro League teams. On top of the concession buildings sit the rooftop bleachers, a tribute to the old rooftop seats found on the row homes across from the old Shibe Park. The indoor batting cage, meanwhile, is carpeted with old AstroTurf from Veterans Stadium. One change that was made, however, was done specially for a Philly legend. When the new ballpark was being designed, the architects asked team members if they had any special requests. They received one from none other than the Philly Fanatic. See, the Fanatic is a bit on the rotund side. Don't judge him, he has a glandular condition.
Is a sick boy?
Anyway, for as multi-talented as the Fanatic is, he had a big problem. Doors. Specifically, the Phillies' locker room door, which was too narrow for the mascot to squeeze through. So, in a major win for accessibility, a new locker room door was designed, with more Fanatic-sized dimensions. Much like Citizens Bank Park, Citi Field, home of the Mets, is chock full of homages to New York baseball history. It's built on the site of Shea Stadium, the Mets' old stomping grounds. If you head to the parking lot, you can spot 4 plaques marking the location of the bases at Shea. As you enter the park, you'll find a massive rotunda in the image of Ebbets Field. This entryway, named after Jackie Robinson, was the result of owner Fred Wilpon's obsession with the Brooklyn Dodgers, and serves as a shrine to one of baseball's greatest icons. Inside of the stadium, Citi Field holds 41,922 seats, each of them colored a dark shade of green in tribute to the Polo Grounds. Actually, that's not quite true. See, as of 2025, there's now a total of 41,921 green seats, and 1 purple one. This is the Grimace seat. You know the story. It's June of 2024, and the Mets are struggling. With a 29 and 37
Another sick boy.
they call in the big guns.
Ronald. Yeah, you're right. Yo, can we talk about this? A stupid good pitch. Like, how, you guys?
Good extension, you know, for somebody with short arms like that. Got a little downhill on the mound, and I thought Grimace, heck of a job, man.
Following Grimace's first pitch, the Mets win 7 straight and make the playoffs as a wildcard team. To honor the one who made this all possible, the Mets unveiled his very own purple seat. It's located in row 6, seat 12 of section 302, referencing June 12th, the date of Grimace's fateful pitch.
I mean, I love reference like this, though. It's cool.
When it opened in 2008, Nationals Park boasted a bunch of Easter eggs for eagle-eyed fans. Front and center was a massive clock attached to the center field scoreboard with a giant curly W in the middle. Now, they say a broken clock is right twice a day. As it turned out, whoever said that obviously never watched a Nats home game. Almost immediately, this clock, which, don't get me wrong, was very cool, started having issues. It broke down in 2009, then again in 2012, and again in 2013. By 2014, the Nationals had had enough. When fans showed up for opening day that season, they found the hands of the clock removed altogether. To this day, the curly W clock remains unfinished. Who knows when, or if, it will ever be fixed. Before we get to the final entry in this video, I have to warn you that this one is dark. If stories involving death make you uncomfortable, you might want to skip ahead. Truist Park, found just outside of Atlanta, Georgia, is the newest ballpark in the National League. Now, there are plenty of things to get fans out to Braves games nowadays. The team has been good, the stadium is beautiful, and there are a ton of extra events to keep the crowd entertained. Events like Beat the Freeze. You've probably seen it before. Between innings at certain home games, a fan is plucked from the stands to compete against the Freeze, a super...
You can't tell me that guy was actually trying to run the fastest he could.
Superhero-like speedster who could beat anyone with ease. So, let's say it's 2018. You're a Braves fan, or maybe you're just in town and want to catch a game. So you go to Google and you ask if the Freeze is going to be at the Braves game today. And what you find shocks you.
Investigators in Atlanta still trying to figure out the cause of death
Freeze
after a body is found in a beer cooler at SunTrust Park.
In June of 2018, a body was found at the Atlanta ballpark, locked inside of a walk-in freezer.
Damn.
According to law enforcement, this man was 48-year-old Todd Keeling, a third-party contractor and inventor from Minnesota. Keeling had been at the stadium to install his new product, a patented beer-pouring technology that had already been used by the Twins and the White Sox. Family members told the press that Todd had been excited to bring his invention to the Braves Park and had personally traveled to Atlanta to set it up. It's not known exactly what happened next. The autopsy indicated that Keeling had been inside the cooler when the handle malfunctioned, causing him to suffocate. It was a shocking tragedy, leading to countless headlines, questions from fans, and a lawsuit. And with that not so fun fact, we've reached the end of this video. There are plenty of things
And I'm sure a lot of people died in stadium, you know? There's probably a lot of stories. But that's definitely like a unfortunate one. Yeah. I can't imagine the feeling, right? Like getting into one of those freezer type and then you realize that you locked yourself inside, you're potentially like alone here and you might die very quick and that's it. You just fucked up and you're dead in a stupid way. All you can do is just sit down and die. I can't even imagine the feeling. Yeah. Very interesting. I really like the stuff with all the restaurants that the stadium have, you know. Restaurants are pretty cool, yeah. Yeah. Okay, well, that was nice to watch. I enjoyed it. But yeah, final video for today. Thank you everybody as always for coming and sharing some good stuff to watch. I enjoyed it. But yeah, until next time for another one of those random streams. Hope you enjoyed. Have a good day, good night, good morning, and I'll see you guys next time, next stream, next video. See you.